Hello everybody and welcome to the Grid Engineering GTE Season 1 finale. We are finally at the final round, basically, Le Mans. We've been speaking about it for ages. There have been a couple of tweaks of what we've seen, what we've been talking about, basically, for the last 11 weeks, which is amazing to say. But we are still having the 2-hour race. It is still the finale of the season as well. We do have a champion that was announced last time out of the Nürburgring, but obviously we'll give him some love today as well. It's not just me today. If anybody has been sort of eagle-eyed and looked over at the info, you'll see that the broadcast team, where normally it is just me, and then it says powered by NXTGEN or something like that, it now says Matt Emmons, as Matt has jumped out of the car and decided to jump into the commentary box. God knows why, but he's decided to do it. So, Matt, how the devil are you?
I'm all good, thank you very much, Jack. How are you?
I am not bad. I've just realised I'm very much hoping people can hear you. Yes, they should be able to hear you, rather than that round one fiasco that we had all those weeks ago. I mean, let's start off, basically, Matt, with saying that it's been a fantastic season, hasn't it, the Grid Engineering GTE Season 1. Has it been everything you hoped it would be?
To be honest, it's been better than I ever thought it would be. I mean, I think we had 24 on the grid at Monza. I never thought we'd have got past 15, and it's even now, I think it's 8 or 9 left now, I think we've got. That's still, considering it's been 11 weeks and you expect to drop off, it's been better than I ever thought it would be. And I'd just like to take this moment to say thanks for NXTGEN for letting me host it.
Fantastic. Good shout out as well. We'll just transition because we'll have a look, actually, at who we're basically racing with tonight. And I thought then we were actually in the race, but we weren't. So yeah, today obviously we've got 6 drivers currently who have set a time. It's Neil Andrews, Edward Lack, Jack Fielder-Clifford, Matt Hodges, and Colin Martin and Jochen Sigert. So 4 out of the CXR, 4 out of those 6 drivers are CXR drivers. Then we've got another 6 drivers who are yet to set a qualifying time, whether that be they've tried to set a qualifying time and it's been in sort of track limits problems basically, or whether or not it's actually just flat out they haven't set one yet, which would be an interesting strategy considering we've only got 6 minutes to go, and it is an awfully long lap. For about 3 minutes and 47 seconds is Neil Andrews' time at the moment. And well, you put the sessions together, Matt. I don't know if you've actually jumped on and driven much of Le Mans in the GTE cars. Can you tell us at all what it's like?
Well, I'll be honest, I haven't had a chance to do any testing this week, but I have had a chat with George, who I work with, about it all, and he says it's easy for the first part, but it's bumpier than you'd ever expect, and then when you get to the end of the Mulsanne Straight and all around the Indianapolis corners and all the rest of the stuff like that, it is horrible on the brakes. It is really hard to judge your braking points. So hopefully it'll make a bit of interesting racing.
I'm sure it will, yeah. Apologies if some of the cars aren't coming up as painted. I think my Trading Paint has decided that it wants to throw a bit of a wobbly. It did threaten to do that the other week. So with any luck, we'll see a couple of cars flash white and then actually put their paints on, because otherwise we're going to be going to we're going to have basically very basic paints for the entirety of this race, and for 2 hours we want to see the most interesting thing we possibly can. Not topping that, 47.5 says Ed Lack in the chat. And also, while we're here, we might as well say a big thank you and a shout out to the people who have been liking and commenting and everything like that. So without further ado, Matt Emmons, thank you, mate. I just realised I was going to read your name out like you weren't here. But yeah, Matt, thank you very much, obviously. Katie Eames with the share and the like, thank you. Alex Everett with the like, and Billy Bob Ray as well with the like. Casey's come on the chat, so is Miles Owens, I think, on the YouTube chat saying hello and all that sort of good stuff as well. So big thank you to everybody who's decided to jump on and actually engage as well, because, Matt, it's a 2-hour endurance race here. It was, once upon a time, a 2-hour team endurance event, wasn't it? But today, we've changed it a bit.
Yeah, we have. I mean, I put a post in all the group chats and everything we've got, and a lot of people had other engagements that they couldn't miss. So when I added it all up, I think we'd have had 3 or 4 teams. So I just thought, you know what, let's just do a 2-hour endurance race, still double points, just solo, and let them see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hope that we can actually get some, well, thoroughly exciting racing. I suppose it's a completely different standard of racing, though, isn't it? Because obviously we normally have a 45-minute feature race, and so the jump to 1 hour per driver wouldn't be that big a leap, would it? But the fact that it's gone to 2 hours is well over double the amount of time, which is going to be a bit of a shock for them.
It is, and I think I, I think tiredness will set in after about 90 minutes. I mean, I did 24 hours of Daytona with George in January. And after about an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes, your arms start to ache and your shoulders start to ache because you sat and all you're moving is your arms and your shoulders. So hopefully a bit of fatigue sets in and we might see a few overtakes.
We may well do, but what we're not going to see is a change for the championship order, are we? We're just going to have a very quick look. We've been looking at our champion, actually, for your eagle-eyed viewers out there. You may not have recognised him because he's in a slightly different looking car because my trading paints won't open for whatever reason. I apologise about that. I might have to uninstall it and reinstall it, but that won't be during this race. But you can see that Matt Hodges has taken the championship with 324 points to his name. Even though it's still double points here at Le Mans, it's still mathematically impossible for Aaron Taylor to overtake him because we are only doing that one race. Matt Acton came home in, well, to be fair, I say came home in third at the moment. He's not on the field, so there's every opportunity that Ed Lack potentially can overtake him. I don't think he can, actually, because 50 points is the margin. And in fact, no, if Ed Lack wins this one, he could overtake Matt Acton into third place and make it a 1-2-3 CXR Black. Miles Owens currently sat in 5th. Neil Andrews currently sat in 6th. Alex Everett in 7th. He did not start last time out. And unfortunately, he's not here this evening either, which is a bit of a shame, even though he has gone and nicely put a like on the stream. Matt, you are in 8th place at the moment. I don't know whether you'll stay there. Obviously, you're not starting today, but I don't think James Holman or Ian Crosby are here, so you may well be safe in 8th place. You never know. James and Ian are both in 9th and 10th. Further down, Colin Martin and Paul Scott, Sam Holman, Eric Newman, Adam Gale, Jochen Sigert, who is here this evening, I think. I think Jochen has been out of the country for a little while, or away from his sim anyway, so it'd be nice to see him back on the track, and he may well be a threat if he wins this to your 8th place, but I don't think he probably will. I think he'll be the first to admit he's not quite as quick as the CXR boys. Eric Nordens is in 17th, George Bland in 18th, Martin Brinkworth in 19th, and Tom Delaney in 20th. And then there is a third page because, like Matt has said, we did have quite a few drivers at one point in this championship, but you can see the rest of them from 21st down to 30th on your screens there as well. Some pretty good names have flown through the championship. It's a shame that they didn't all stick around. It would have been absolutely sensational to see them. But I tell you what, who has stuck around? And that is the CXR boys. Now, we mention them quite a lot, Matt, don't we? But there's no getting around it. Obviously, one of the champions, or the champion, is one of our one of the CXR boys. There we go. But it's pretty hard to get away from them. They have been dominant since they joined.
They have. They've really raised the bar, so to speak. I mean, I think it was Interlagos was the last round before they joined, and I think the field was split by about 1.4 seconds or something. And then the next week they jumped in, and I think it was about a 2-second gap from the leaders back to everyone else. So it was really like, wow, we really are going to have to up our games now. And unfortunately, they were just a bit too quick for us.
Well, that's what happens when they field a proper esports racing team into the fray, isn't it? But it is pretty cool though to have your sort of championship, and I mean, Next Gen's always been a bit of sort of, it's a free-to-play style championships, aren't they? A community, and it's all very friendly and slightly lower league. All of a sudden, to have these proper esports teams come in and have a bit of a play around with you guys is pretty special.
It really is. I mean, I must admit, from following them in the races, I've followed them. I must admit, I've learned so much, and they've been really helpful to anyone that's asked any advice that they could share with everyone. They've shared it. They've tried to help everyone improve. I must admit, they've been a bit of a good thing for this championship.
They have indeed. Yeah, we even had Phil on to have a chat with us a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? In one of the more sort of quiet feature races, shall we say. I think it was at Suzuka. He came and had a chat to us, which was delightful. The checkered flag has dropped now, so Neil Andrews on pole position. The next 4 drivers down to Colin Martin are all in the pit, so I don't think there's going to be much of a threat to Neil's time. Jochen Sigert is in 6th, and I tell you what, George Bland... now, you said that he's got a new livery this evening, but unfortunately, because trading paints isn't working, we can't see it, Matt, can we? Which is a bit good. Maybe midway through this race, or when things quieten down, I'll try and uninstall and reinstall trading paint so we can have a look at some of the special liveries. But they haven't set a time yet. We've got Matthew Green, Matthew Green has Miles Owens, George Bland, Jamie Dorian, Aaron Taylor. Aaron Taylor's a big question mark on how he's not set a time. All without a time at the moment.
Yeah, I must admit, I'd never realised there were that many drivers in here. But no, I must admit, like George says, it's so hard on the track limits here. You can run half an inch of a wheel over the one of the curbs, and it'll knock you on it. And an off track means your lap doesn't get counted for the people that don't know that. So it really is quite a demanding track, so to speak.
It is indeed. Colin Martin, thank you very much for the share. Ed Lack, have you tried Control R for the paints? Yeah, I just tried that, Ed. Unfortunately, it's not that refreshes iRacing's base paint, unless you've got trading paints open and working, in which case you can then use it for trading paints. But because I can't get trading paints open and working, that doesn't work. So Alex Everett says that gutted that he can't be racing tonight. Apparently, it's one of his favourite circuits. Bit of a shame, Alex, that he can't be here. But hopefully, maybe you'll be back for next season. And I don't know. Actually, I haven't actually kept a tab on the other Next Gen series. I've been so busy, Matt. Have you any idea how the Legends have got on, or any of the other Next Gen seasons?
Tabs on the Legends. I must admit, I was meant to race myself on Wednesday night, but family issues, so I didn't get a chance to jump on. But to be honest, that looked like quite a fun championship. I mean, I know it's a fixed setup championship, and they're mainly British tracks, and it's co-hosted, I think, by, is it Bobby Thompson?
It is indeed, yeah.
Yeah, so I must admit, that's something I keep looking at for the next season, because I think Jamie's doing that next season. I don't know for definite. But yeah, it'll be quite an interesting one. I must admit, it looks really challenging, but it looks a fun kind of challenging, to be honest.
Yeah, it reminds me of almost Skip Barber's or MX-5s. It's very accessible, especially with that fixed setup. And you're right, it is Bobby Thompson who sort of co-runs that. I actually had a chat to Bobby Thompson on a podcast and everything the other day. Lovely guy. But I'll be plugging that a little bit later. Don't you guys worry about that. Royal Kebab calling Matt Green to come last by 10 laps. That's a bit harsh. We do actually have a new driver, don't we? Because you may not have seen him, but he's in 9th place at the moment. Matt Green, he is about 3 seconds off Nigel Stock, which is a bit of a shame. But is that a little bit of a practice for next season as George Bland gets a little bit wavy out of the final corner? Is that the corner that's going to hurt him? No, he's put himself up to 8th place on the final lap. So we do have the grid. And tell you what, Matt, because it's the last one of the series and because it is your series, would you like to read the grid order?
Okay, I can do. It is Aaron Taylor on pole, followed by his CXR teammate Neil Andrews. Again, it's another CXR in 3rd place, and I think it's another CXR in 4th and 5th.
I was going to say, guess who's 5th then?
Yeah, Jack Fielder Clifford in 4th with Mathew Hodges in 5th. And then it's the SV PMR machine of Colin Martin, followed by Jochen Siegert in 7th. George Bland is in 8th for Team MMV. 9th is Nigel Stock in the Porsche. 10th is Matthew Green, 11th is Miles Owens, and 12th is Jamie Dory.
Yeah, and that's actually the entire grid fitting all neatly onto one page as well, which is quite nice and very well read out by you, Matt, I have to say. 12 cars on the grid. It would be 13 technically on the grid, but obviously one of them is a safety car. There's every opportunity. We've seen that the CXR boys, they don't hold back, and I think if anything, it's quite fitting that they don't all have the same livery on for this stream. Or they probably mean to, but obviously technical difficulties. But it's quite fitting that because they haven't, although they may have tried to do it in the first couple of rounds they joined, they've quickly realised that it's not a team championship. Therefore, they might as well just go all at it and sort of have a go at each other, really.
It is, I must admit, watching the streams back and everything, and I've quite a bit at times I've thought, well, they're going to start battling, and then they always leave it till 2 or 3 laps, and then they start going for it. But I must admit, when they're all, like you say, a big professional team, I presume that they've got to keep a certain kind of reputation and stuff like that, so I can understand it. But it's, yeah.
Rule 1 is, I suppose, in motorsport, don't hit your teammates, isn't it? Which, I mean, we've seen a fair bit of, actually. I remember when Phil, who is in charge of CXR, he came on for Suzuka, and I think I brought him in, and as soon as I brought him in, I was like, oh, well, you've got a driver currently leading the championship, and I cut to Matt Hodges immediately, and Hodges immediately binned it on the outside of the corner. And I think a little bit later, I think Ed Lack and Neil Andrews had a coming together as well, so it was quite entertaining, to be honest, to have him in the booth for those moments. You could hear an audible sigh, and his enthusiasm go down
Imola,
slightly.
wasn't it?
I think it might have been Imola. It might have been Imola, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember coming round the top of the hill on the left-hander, coming around, and all I'm seeing is a green Porsche on the right-hand side of the track, so you're letting off and trying your best to not hit it.
I was going to say,
we managed to bin it.
Yeah, I don't appreciate that from a driver's perspective, the ones coming through either. It's yeah, it's quite good fun. So Aaron Taylor on pole position, Neil Andrews currently in second place, Ed Lack in third, Jack Fielder Clifford's fourth. Matt Hodges, our champion, in fifth place. Halfway up the grid is Colin Martin, back from a few races out, I believe. Jochen Sigget again back from a few races out in seventh place. George Bland, your teammate, Matt, is currently lined up in 8th. Nigel Stock in 9th. And then the drivers who didn't set a lap time. In fact, no, Matthew Green did set a lap time. Miles Owens and Jamie Dorey didn't set a lap time. So, yeah, Jamie, actually, he mentioned to us, didn't it? Well, he mentioned to you, actually, saying that maybe he'll talk us through a lap of Le Mans. But I don't know if we're willing to distract him for that long. It is a good 4-minute lap. It'd be a long commentary.
Well, let's just see how he gets on, because if it's anything like last week at the Nürburgring between him, Nigel Stock and George Bland, then I think he'll be in for quite an exciting race.
That's very true, actually. It was an absolute cracking race, wasn't it, last time out? For that sort of the best of the rest sort of area, wasn't it? But as they come round the final couple of chicanes, we will get this race underway. Remember, a 2-hour endurance race. There's no sprint race. It's just the feature. 2 hours, and Aaron Taylor has already hit the pedal to the metal. Neil Andrews trying to keep with him as best he can. Maybe he guessed that Aaron Taylor was going to be that quick off the line. Ed Lack has been caught out slightly, but is Andrews going to try and fly up the inside into the first chicane? No, he's had to just duck back inside. Everybody goes single file, and looks like we've got a pretty clean getaway. Jochen Sigget's had a spin. Jochen Sigget is off onto the gravel trap. Hopefully no damage, and I have to say, it may not have trading paints on, but it looks a fairly nice BMW, that one. Nigel Stock made up 2 places. He's into 7th. Jamie Dorey's just overtaken Miles Owens as well. He's actually up 3 positions, Jamie, in the Ferrari, so good going by him, and he could have George Bland here. He's just spun off in the Porsche, and it's not an audible sigh, but I can feel it from you there, Matt.
Yeah, just a touch. I was kind of hoping George had just settled down for the first couple of laps, but it's one of them.
Yeah, into the wall, but the top 5 are unchanged as they go onto the straight for the first time, potentially getting a bit of slipstream. It's going to be very important here in these GTE cars, is because basically everything slipstreams at Le Mans, doesn't it? I don't think you can show me a car that doesn't get affected by the slipstream at this circuit, and affected hard as well. So we will see drivers really bunch up to each other as Ed Lack lags in and out of existence. Have you ever had connection issues, Matt? Because to be honest, I don't race that often, and when I have raced a few times, I haven't had the connection issues. Have you ever lagged in and out? What's it like to drive? Or even, have you been behind someone who has been doing it?
I've been behind a few people that have done it, and I must admit, it's quite off-putting, because you're thinking, if you're coming into a corner, when are they braking? I can't see when they're braking, because they could respawn, and you could be in their rear bumper.
Yeah, well, one driver who's just crashed his front bumper is Jamie Dorey. He just went straight on. Didn't look like he even touched the brake, which is a bit of a shame for him. Ed Lack chasing down now Neil Andrews, but he's going to come a little bit too late, isn't it? He's not going to be able to get alongside him. It's a brave move up the inside if they wanted to try it, but it's not happening right now. So looking a bit further down the order, Colin Martin going side by side. Who's this with? It's with Matthew Green, who's been tipped by Royal Kebab to come last by 10 laps. I don't think it's going to happen this quickly, though, because he seems to be putting up a good fight against seasoned sim racing veteran here at NXTGEN, Colin Martin, in the SV PMR machine. Even though it doesn't look like the SV PMR machine. It's actually a bit off-putting, the fact that obviously all the liveries have changed on the last round. I can't actually tell who's who necessarily. But again, it's the CXR guys right at the front, and they seem to have driven away already. Matt Hodges is a full 3.2 seconds ahead of Nigel Stock, who appears to be the best of the rest at the moment. Miles Owens in 7th place. He's gained 4 positions to get to that. Colin Martin down 2 in 8th. Matthew Green up 1 to 9th. Jochen Sigget in 10th, lost 3 positions. George Bland in 11th, lost 3 positions. And Jamie Dorey, who I'm not sure if is still parked. No, he's just been overtaken by George Bland. So this fight might actually heat back up again for the Nürburgring.
It could do. I mean, it'll be quite an interesting one, looking at Jamie's damage on his car. And I think George will have a bit of front aero damage after he touched the wall, but I don't think that'll make much difference, but it'll be quite an interesting one with all the damage.
It will be indeed, and in fact, Miles Owens is actually having a little bit of a close ding-dong with Nigel stock even here. Again, we've had, obviously we mentioned the front runners quite a lot over the course of the season, but obviously this broadcast already. But realistically, this fight for sort of best of the rest, this sort of fight to get into the top 5 or the top 6, has quite often revealed some of the best racing, hasn't it? And you've been in amongst it quite a lot, haven't you, Matt? How has it been from your perspective? Although you're not maybe winning trophies, or if there were trophies, but virtual trophies, but still having a fantastic fight in this mid pack. Is it sort of just as rewarding as going for that win?
I'd say the most exciting battles I've had in this championship have been my trophies for this season, to be honest, because it's been some of the best battling I've had in the 2 years I've been on iRacing, to be honest.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, I was going to say, it sparked you as well. Oh my days. Aaron Taylor has had an off, and I'm not entirely sure where he will be. In fact, let's go and have a very quick look, because I was just about to go through some of the replays that we had before, but let's have a look at what happened to Aaron Taylor. He's all on his own, but he just touches the outside, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does, and I think it just spins the back wheels up, and he's just a passenger in that after that.
And that's the first time that any of the CXR drivers have actually changed position since the start of this race, which is, I suppose, not entirely surprising, is it? But it is, quite interesting that Aaron Taylor was the one to do it. I suppose he's in 5th place. Got quite a gap, and quite a gap in terms of 1 lap pace as well ahead of Nigel Stock, so I don't expect Stock to really catch up to him too much, but especially if Stock goes straight off of the chicane and does that. You can just about see him behind those trees, trying to spin the wheels back up, and that's a bit of a shame actually, because it looked like Miles Owens and him were going to have a right good ding-dong on their hands, but it looks like he's going to rejoin. Jochen Sigurt's probably going to take advantage. There we go, pull the BMW past, and potentially Matt Green might have a run on him as well. Let's keep an eye on Matt Green's on his nose cam, see if he can try and catch up to the drivers. They're already getting into their slipstream, aren't they?
They are, I must admit. It's going to be quite an interesting one on that Mulsanne straight. I mean, is it nearly 3 miles long as a straight?
Something ridiculous like that, yeah. Which is, look at that. He's just hit the brakes, Nigel Stock. He didn't want it, did he? He didn't fancy that battle. Maybe he's got a slow down. I'm not entirely sure.
No, it's either that or he just didn't want that kind of line through that chicane then.
Yeah, very interesting indeed. But Jochen Sigurd has gone through. There's a driver just going slowly there again. I'm not entirely sure where. George Bland is now sitting on the bottom of the pile, unfortunately, Matt, for M&V Motorsport. But you never know. He could try and catch up. He's only a couple of tenths behind Jamie Dory. So this battle, although there is damage on board for both of these cars, they are sort of heating up. But there we go, Jamie Dory missing his braking zone again, and it's a lock-up, isn't it? It's such a common mistake in these cars.
It definitely is, because, I mean, compared to the GTD and GT3 cars, these don't have ABS, and it is so easy to lock them brakes up, as I've shown many times in this championship that you've streamed so far. Yeah, it's a lot harder than I ever thought it would be, and I mean, changing from the Chevrolet to the Ford last week, it was like trying to learn to ride a bike again, because every car handles differently, brakes differently. Yeah, it's been really, really difficult, to say the least.
Has indeed. I remember my first, I've probably mentioned it a couple of times over the course of this series, but actually my second ever car I jumped in terms of iRacing. Well, obviously the first one was UMX-5s, because when isn't it the first car that you jump in? But the second one was actually the BMW GTE car, because there was the BMW 12.0 Challenge, which was one of these official iRacing leagues that is not necessarily ran by anybody like NXTGEN or anything. It's just sort of put on there as an official league. And it sort of ran every... Ed Lack, wherever you go, that's got to be a slowdown, surely.
I was just thinking, and he's done it again.
It's a very interesting line.
What's going on there, Ed?
I'm not entirely sure. Jack Fielder Clifford goes now through. He's gained 2 positions from the start, and they're pretty much been gifted to them, haven't they? Ed must have a rather large slowdown, because he just did that 2 times in a row, didn't he? I'm not sure if he just missed the braking zone, but to do it again straight away is very odd. Maybe a hardware issue. He's coming offline again, so I think he's in trouble here. And in fact, nope, just a bit of lag. I thought he was just diving into the pits then, but he's about to be overtaken by Aaron Taylor, who obviously had a spin about this time last lap in that exact spot. Aaron Taylor goes through to retake 4th position. Tell you what, these guys at the bottom here, you can't keep them quiet, can you? I think they've overtaken each other 4 times since we've been talking.
Yeah, well, the one saving grace they've got is obviously in a 2-hour race, they do have to make a pit stop. or maybe even 2, depending on how hard they push the cars. So the saving grace is there is one fast repair that they can use.
That's actually a good thing that you're here, because you actually know the intricacies of all these rules. I sort of get them mixed up every so often. So what, is it just the fact that, do they have to take tyres? Do they have to take fuel? Will they have to take fuel whether they want to or not? What's sort of the plan here with these GTEs for the 2 hours?
Well, they don't have to take tyres. If they don't want to take tyres, they don't have to. But after about an hour and 10, 15 minutes, these tyres start to go off, so to speak, so the times will start dropping. But yes, they have to take fuel, because I think these fuel tanks last about 45, 46 minutes. I might be wrong at that. But yeah, they do drink some fuel to these machines.
So does that mean if it lasts about 45 minutes, because obviously that, you know, with that one pit stop means we'd only be able to go for about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes. Will we see quite a lot of fuel saving here, and people trying to do that one-stop strategy?
It could be. I mean, we'd noticed by now with the lap times that when you put these into like a fuel saving mode, they really do turn the power down, and especially here at Le Mans when you need the power down the Mulsanne straight, it's going to be quite difficult to hide the fact if you're saving fuel. And to be honest, I don't expect many people to, but I just hope that nobody runs out of fuel, to be honest.
Always interested me. I didn't learn this until about 3 months into commentary, so probably I don't know, July last year, maybe August last year. I didn't actually realise that on iRacing, it's not about the amount of revs you take, is it? And for fuel saving and stuff. So you can run at 7,000 RPM or 5,000 RPM. It doesn't really matter on fuel saving. What actually matters is the throttle position. So if you're going down and you're on 100% throttle, you'll be drinking fuel at 100%. But if you go down the straight, use a bit of slipstream, and you're on the throttle 90%, you're actually 10% fuel saving, aren't you? No matter what it doesn't matter if you're in a higher gear or lower gear. It's all about the throttle position.
It is, but it's not just about the throttle position with these. There is the map. What's it called?
Engine map.
That's the one, engine map. You can turn the engine map down so that the engine knows to use less fluid. So you can give it 100% throttle still, but you just don't have the power.
That's amazing, actually, considering that, as I said, this is the second. Well, the BMW was the second car I'd ever driven in iRacing. Again, I had no idea on that. I didn't know you could change engine maps. Didn't know any of that. I'm very much rubbish when it comes to car setups and intricacies and stuff like that, which is why it's always nice to have a second commentator who actually knows a little bit thing or two about the cars that are actually getting driven around the circuit. So another reason why it's lovely to have you here, Matt. I suppose because everything has calmed down just a touch, hasn't it? And we're quite early on in the race. You have announced the next season, the plans for next season for this series, haven't you? The GTE season is going to continue for Series 2, basically. What information can you give to us for people who may not have seen it before?
Well, the information I can give at the minute, while I'm just ironing out the last few things, is it is going to be the GTEs and the GT3 cars. So we're going to have a multi-class championship over 12 rounds instead of 10, with two-hour solo endurance races at 2 different tracks in Le Mans this time. It'll be at round 6 is at Silverstone for 2 hours, and round 12 is at Spa for 2 hours.
So you've avoided the Nordschleife for 2 hours. That's very well done.
I must admit, I own the Nordschleife, and I've never done a lap of it yet.
Well, from a commentary perspective, it's terrible. Mate, I don't like it personally. I made my views on it quite clear recently in another broadcast, and I think I made it last week as well. We were in the Nürburgring GP as well. I just don't think it promotes good racing, and for a 2-hour endurance event, it really doesn't promote good racing. Like, it's a fantastic spectacle. It really proves what the drivers can do, and it's an amazing to see the hot laps and everything like that. But realistically, unlike Le Mans, where okay, you could get a gap of a second and a half, 2 seconds, which isn't uncommon, but every time you're going to come to that Mulsanne straight, aren't you, for what is basically half the lap, and you will close up again. You will close by about half a second on the driver ahead, which just almost makes this rubber band effect, which offers brilliant racing. And similarly at Spa, I suppose, you get the Kemmel straight and you get the Blanchimont straight as well, which, well, it's not really a straight, but a section, which just closes it back up, doesn't it? So that offers better racing, in my opinion. So they're good tracks that you got on offer.
Well, I was just about to say, would you like me to read the full? The calendar is set in stone, so I can read the calendar out if you'd like me to.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, we're starting at Daytona instead of I'm trying to think, Silverstone this time, obviously. So we're starting at Daytona in the road course, where it'll be 2 rounds, which I forgot to mention is a different setup layout than this season. So instead of the 20-minute race and then the 40-minute, 5-minute race and top 10 reverse grid, next season will be a 15-minute sprint race, which is a proper sprint race now, and then it's an hour-long full reverse grid feature race now. Oh. So it's going to be a bit longer and hopefully a bit more time for people to overtake. And it also means there is going to be a mandatory pit stop for fuel again. And I'm umming and ahhing, and this is where I say I don't know if the rules are set in stone, but I'm umming and ahhing about making you so you have to take a set of tyres, so it makes it a bit more exciting. Coming out of old tyres is a bit different, but anyway. Round 2, we are actually heading to Donington Grand Prix layout.
Fantastic.
I've tried this calendar next time. I've tried combining what's been the best tracks from this season, even though I put Le Mans in and I haven't. Obviously, we haven't seen Le Mans yet. With the actual British GT Championship.
Okay.
So there's going to be quite a few tracks that you wouldn't like to think a GTE car would ever drive around, but well, we're going to see it. Round 2 is Donington Grand Prix. Round 3 is Interlagos again. Round 4 is Long Beach in America.
We didn't do that this time around, did we?
No, we didn't. I don't think it had come out when we started this, though, to be fair.
I think it had, because I remember covering an MX-5 round, but it had only come out like literally the season before, basically. So there's every opportunity that the drivers haven't done it yet.
Well, I must admit, it's something I did think about for this season, but with me being just starting, I thought I don't want to be that mean to everyone, because it's not. If some people don't know what Long Beach circuit is, imagine Monaco but wider and faster.
It's a very good way of doing it.
It's basically that, isn't it? But anyway, round 5 will be Le Mans again. Round 6 will be the 2-hour endurance race at Silverstone. Round 7 will be Hockenheim.
I like Hockenheim. It gets a lot of hate, but I actually quite like Hockenheim.
I must admit, I've still not bought it yet, but thinking about the tracks that have just come out and stuff, I thought I have to include it. Oh, we got a spin.
Oh, we have. Jack Fielder-Clifford seems to be going backwards. Not entirely sure how he managed to do that. He was gifted 2 positions, wasn't he? Because of other drivers in his team spinning. He's got a bit of damage on the rear end. We'll be able to see how on earth that happened. And also, when you've done with the calendar, we'll have a look back at some of those incidents right at the start of the race. But right now, we've got a bit of a battle going down the straight, actually, between Taylor and our champion, Hodges. Hodges is ahead. Sorry, no, he isn't. Taylor is ahead. Hodges is just behind, and Ed Lack is coming to have a little bit of a play as well, by the looks of it. He needs to get out the chicane a little bit nicer, a bit wide there by Taylor, but it doesn't matter because it's basically completely flat, as this is basically a highway, isn't it, at Le Mans? And all of a sudden, these guys seem to be fine up a little bit. But talk us through what has happened here for Jack Fielder-Clifford.
Well, let's have a look. Oh, he's just run wide over the curb and onto the grass, and it's spun the wheels up and just lost all traction.
Is that going to be quite a lot of damage on the front end? Because we saw him tap it just as we went through there, didn't we? We'll see it one more time. He did just run a little bit wide. But look at this, a little tap on the front.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the rear wing as well, he's just tapped that and bent that. But when he spins round, all his front splitters bent, so it's going to upset his aerodynamics a bit of that car. So it might not even corner as well. It definitely won't have its top speed now, though.
Well, that's crucial, isn't it? Because obviously we've mentioned it a fair few times, but this is a huge straight, nearly 3 miles, like you mentioned. Without getting your top speed, you could be 2 or 3 miles an hour down on your top speed, and it just absolutely wreck you. I mean, I was racing an MX-5 for a couple of sort of weeks when I was a bit quieter on the commentary front, and it was. I think I tapped someone there was a 4 mile an hour difference because he was braking into a corner, and I just came up and I tapped him, and there's a 4 mile an hour difference on the replay. And my front end just basically fell off, and I was 15 miles an hour slower at Interlagos just by that little tap, and the physics was just like, no, you're broken it, you're screwed now. Thank you very much. Thanks for playing. See you next week, sort of thing. So there's every opportunity. I don't know whether it's that extreme in the GTEs, but it can really, really hurt you, can't it?
It can. I mean, it's not as bad as that in the GTEs. I mean, if you have a big enough crash, like anything you would in real life, your steering wheel's at 90 degrees and you're there fighting with it just to try and get it go in a straight line. But they're a bit more forgiving in these, to be honest. in a sense that with you damage these, you mainly lose speed. The cornering a bit, but not massively. But like you say, with the track like Le Mans, you need the slipstream, and you even slightly damaging the aerodynamics of the car, you're not going to gain that 3 or 4 extra mile per hour, and you're not going to catch them as fast.
You're not indeed, no. And I've just seen that, well, we've had a retirement, and I believe he's been happy to come and have a chat to us afterwards as well. But let's have a look at Jamie Dory actually retired in the first place. He was having a good little fight round right at the back with George Bland, but it looks like he's just given up the ghost, hasn't he? He's gone straight on. Doesn't even try and make... Oh, no, he does try and make it in the end. But then pulls off to the... Oh, well, yeah, there we go. He's making sure that he's damaged his Ferrari well and truly before spawning back to the pits, I believe. So I think we may well be able to drag him in, though, and have a chat to him. But at the moment, there's a huge fight, and Fielder Clifford trying to take it to Colin Martin and span round yet again. And I'm not entirely sure how all that came to pass. Jack Fielder Clifford, it says that he's got off track about 17 times leading up to that. So I don't know if his car is absolutely had off, whether he was trying to defend from Colin Martin, but he's lost out to Nigel Stock. And I think Miles Owens is about to come and take his place as well. Look at the state of that rear end.
Yeah, that's just a bit so twisted. But if he's been off the track 17 times, that's 17 off tracks, and the limit is 25 for a drive-through penalty.
May have been a slightly exaggerated. Wait, how many times did he go off? Oh, to be fair, it come up on my highlights reel as about, I don't know, about 10, but it's actually only 4 off tracks, so he's actually gotten away with it slightly. But this is on the lead up, so that is why Colin Martin caught up to him, dives at the inside, but then Colin just goes over the apex
sausage curb,
yeah, over the sausage curb. He really didn't need to take that much curb, did he? He was already on his inside. I don't think Fielder Clifford was thinking of defending it.
Well, he is a person who's done that before, has just seen someone run wide and think, right, I'm going for the inside line here. It is so easy for the lead car to not notice you in the mirror and just turn in for their apex, and you just end up having a big smash. So I'd have probably done what Colin did, to be honest. Just you'd bite the bullet, take the slowdown penalty, but you've no damage on your car then, so to speak.
Well, I can tell you what, Ed Lack has gotten through on Matt Hodges this time round as well. A little bit of slipstream maybe affected there, but the CXR Project Black boys, they're not sort of impervious to damage or mistakes, are they? They're not invincible. They're clearly showing that. I mean, Andrews is a good... Is that Andrews 7 seconds up the road from Taylor? So, all right, he may have checked out. He has got 5,300 iRating, though, to be fair to him. Taylor obviously had that spin earlier on, but because so many other drivers have had incidents over the course of the race, he's actually back up to second place, even though he qualified on pole. And he's also got a fantastic amount of pace in his car as well. He was a full second quicker than Neil Andrews last time round. So, in fact, see that gap for the lead may well start coming down. Obviously, Hodges, Ed Lack, and Jack Fielder Clifford were having a right good ding-dong for that final third position. Fielder Clifford has fallen away, which means Colin Martin is now the best of the rest into fifth. And, well, I'll tell you what, we were talking about Jamie Dory just before. Shall we bring him in to have a chat and have an interview with him? I'll see if I can drag him. In fact, I can't drag him in, Matt, but you might be able to in the Discord.
I'll just send him a message.
And if you can't do that, then maybe he'll just be watching this. And, well, if you are watching this, Jamie, join the Discord so he can have a chat to you. It'll be lovely. Also, Casey Eames has come on, Matt, and said on the chat that you're going to need to restock Mrs. Emmons' gin cupboard for next season as well, I think. I don't know whether that means you'll be raging or whether you'll just be on your sim a lot. But apparently that's what you're going to have to do.
Well, yeah, luckily enough, my wife works Wednesday night, so it's just me in the house.
Oh, well, that's very lucky, though, isn't it? I was going to say the Wednesday nights is looking like the night you'll be doing it. And actually, we never finished the calendar, did we? We got up to, I think we just said Silverstone 2-hour race, but we never actually saw the back end of that calendar.
Yeah, give me 1 second. We're up to Silverstone. It was Hockenheim the week after.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Then we head to Monza, to is it the Circuit of Speed?
Temple of Speed, I believe they call it. They like to think that they're up themselves a little bit, so they call it the Temple.
Yeah. Then we head to, I think, where you were at the weekend, Brands Hatch GP.
Hey, yeah, fantastic circuit. Very challenging.
And then, well, this is going to be a bit more difficult then for a lot of people. For round 10, we head to Alton Park International.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's going to be really fun to watch in a GTE car. And then round 11 is Nürburgring, the World Endurance Championship layout this time, not the Formula One Championship.
Okay.
So the last chicane is slightly different. I must admit, a lot of people have messaged me during the week and said I picked the wrong layout. It was really hard and difficult to time that anyway. And then the last round, which is obviously another double points race, is round 12 at Spa.
Fantastic. And that's sealing out the championship, is it?
It is.
Brilliant, fantastic. It's sort of multinational and interesting calendar. I have to say, it's a shame really that I won't be able to broadcast it if it is on a Wednesday night, isn't it? Because it's been such a fantastic season so far. It's a bit of a shame that it has to end, and it's been brilliant as well to have people stick with it all the way through the end, or even people sort of jumping out and then coming back. Hopefully we'll get a fair old grid for next season as well, because there is a next gen of basically changing the way that they're doing their leagues now. It was for a long time, up until basically the announcements for next season, a free to race league. Every single league in the next gen roster was free to race, and but because they're obviously trying to make it more professional, they got stewarding involved, and people give up their time and effort, much like Matt has here. It means it does always sometimes come across. Sometimes the volunteers struggle to come by a little bit, and obviously they want to start broadcasting it, which is brilliant because obviously we get to attract a lot more drivers, because a lot of drivers like their racing being broadcast, having their last minute moves pulled off as well, and it just adds to the whole product that Next Gen is bringing. Obviously I would be an advocate for broadcasting a league, but you get what I mean. It actually means that it's starting to have a tiny little bit of a cost, isn't it, Matt?
It is, and I think that's why as of next season the Next Gen racing leagues I think are all becoming pay to race, to be honest.
Yeah, it's some people might say it's a bit of a shame, but that does mean that they get a better quality product, doesn't it? It's when they actually jump in to race, they get some broadcasting, they get stewarding, they get people obviously organising it as best they can. They get the social media presence as well, because you guys have upped that over the last couple of seasons since I've been around. Anyway, that's been upped, and I think Martin Brinkworth is one of the people that is obviously involved with their social media as well, so that's getting upped a little bit more. And to be honest, everything just gets a little bit bigger, doesn't it? So how much is it per round, and how much is it if people sign up right now for your league?
For my league, if you sign up now before the season starts at the 30th of June, I think it's no, not the 30th of June. It ended last week of June. It's £30 for all 12 races, or alternatively, you can pay £3 a week, which will mean you are paying a bit extra, but it pays to pay early, so to speak.
Well, indeed it does, yeah. It also gives you fantastic information for the people that have signed up then, and like Kate Eames has just said in the chat as well, it means people are less likely to drop out because they've paid for their seat, they're paid to be there, and it's starting to create prizes. I'm not sure if any of the prizes are confirmed for next season or anything like that, but I believe the victor of this series, although I haven't heard of it recently, I believe the victor of either this series or all the series in Next Gen, and then they get pulled together to be pulled out of a hat, won a pair of racing gloves supplied by Grid Engineering, didn't they? So with those sort of small costs to race sort of thing, you do get an extra sort of incentive to be around, and I'm sure that'll continue to next season.
I think it's this championship. I think it's Mathew Hodges that has won the gloves from Grid Engineering. I think that was the prize for this championship.
Oh, fantastic. It does make sense, considering this is called the Grid Engineering GTE Season 1. But I just didn't want to say that and then be wrong, in case it was he was just put into a draw for the gloves. But it could be another community I'm thinking of.
I think Jamie's the best person to ask about prizes and stuff. I think he's more clued up on it all.
Well, I'm very much hoping that we can actually jump... Oh, Jamie's in the broadcast comms, but... It's quite ironic, really, because everybody's in the sort of off-season for Next Gen. They do obviously play around with the Discord and the admin and stuff like that, so you get new rooms popping up, and you know all the different chat channels start getting named and everything like that. You've started bringing in roles as well as Next Gen, which means they haven't given me the role to actually get in the broadcast booth, which is why we're actually doing this commentary right now from the interview waiting room. So ironically, Jamie has moved to the broadcast booth. Actually, he's waiting for an interview, but I can't drag him in to the interview waiting room, so it all gets a bit messy. So if you're watching this, Jamie, just drop yourself in to the same place that we are, and then we'll just bring you in once we've realised you're here, or indeed just join and shout hello to the stream. Either way you can do you can do what you want, basically. Considering you are one of the high admins in the Next Gen community. And in fact, here he is. Jamie is now with us. How are you, Jamie? The race hasn't quite gone your way, has it?
Hello.
Hello, Jamie. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Few problems with technological issues, so had to pull out, unfortunately.
I was going to say, is that what caused you to pull out? Because it looked like you were just missing your braking zones completely, and then even after that, you sort of didn't seem to try and turn round the bollards or anything. It just seemed to be going straight on.
Yeah, so basically through quali and early start of the race, about halfway around the lap, I was having lag spikes where everything was freezing for about 20 seconds. So I just had to bring the car to a slow stop and end up where I ended up. So unfortunately, technology gets the better of you.
It's not what you want to happen, is it? When you're going 120 miles an hour down the Mulsanne Straight, all of a sudden everything freezes for 20 seconds. And luckily you're not actually in the car, because that would be a little bit dodgy, couldn't it? But I suppose, obviously, you weren't in the championship running. You came in and you joined for a couple of races, didn't you? How have you found jumping in the GTEs?
Yeah, well, I've done a fair bit of endurance racing with Next Gen. It was it's a competitive grid. I know Mathew Hodges for a little while now and things like that. So I was looking to challenge him. Last week, unfortunately, I didn't really have a setup. And this week I've had technology issues, so I've never really had a chance to show my pace to what I feel I could race. So it's been a bit disappointing, but I've tried.
Well, that's the important thing, isn't it? And I suppose, Jamie, because we haven't really spoken to you much at all this season. Oh, just hold off there, because Nigel Stock, after he was chasing down Jack Fielder-Clifford so well, it's just gone straight on as they come back off the Mulsanne Straight. A bit of a shame, really, because as I said, that was brewing up to be a right nice little battle there. But unfortunately, Nigel has gone straight on. The look of that Ferrari is really rather battered, isn't it?
Yeah, just having a little look what he done there. Seems like what the issues I've been having. Same car as well.
It does look very similar, but I think actually he just went too wide, didn't he? I don't know if you can see it, Jamie, but Matt, he did just seem to just go too wide, try and open up the corner a little bit too much and hit some bumps.
Yeah, and I think he's just got on the marbles and a bit of dirt, and it's just locked the driver's front brake up, and she's just been a passenger. Yeah. I think that's been my famous thing this season, especially at Imola into the first corner when I was on the first lap.
Oh yeah, you started on pole, didn't you, as well?
Yeah, and I didn't make it past turn 2.
Yeah, that's always the way, isn't it? You build it up so much and all of a sudden it's over before you know it. No, that's fair enough. Going back to you, Jamie, I suppose. We used to chatting to you quite a lot, didn't we? Because we were broadcasting on the WTCR, which you were racing on as well, and XTCR, I think you jumped in on a couple of them as well, and you're having a right good little battles with like Lee Horn and some of the other boys, Alex Everett and the Foyle brothers. What have you been up to this season, basically, for Next Gen?
Yeah, so I've basically been running the Legends and racing in the WTCR again on Race Room. Just been busy behind the scenes. However, change of job and things, I can't commit to every week with racing, hence only 2 weeks in this. But yeah, I've been behind the scenes working hard, getting a Legends Championship that's growing week by week, and looking to go even further next year.
Well, I was going to say, can you give us any information? I suppose we've been chatting to Matt about the GTE/GT3 now series that is going to be cracking on next season. But what's the lowdown for any of the other Next Gen series that are going on? Obviously, specifically, I suppose the Legend, which is the other iRacing series. If anybody is wondering, it's Next Gen hosts multiple championships on multiple platforms, don't you? But the two iRacing ones are the one obviously you're watching now, the Grid Engineering GTE series, and the Legends that have been on Wednesday night.
Yeah, so basically going forward, the Legends will be changing to a Monday night now from a Wednesday night. So it's we've got quite a few fairly big names in there from the motorsport world and hoping to grow on that, as well as sim racers.
Sorry, Jamie, I just can't believe what we've just seen.
Is he just lost that down the straight?
I'm not entirely sure. It looked like there was an incident. It looked like it almost turned into him. Who are we actually looking at? It's Nigel Stock.
Yeah, and I think that car's heading for retirement, to be honest.
Yeah, it looks like it is, but it looked like there was a huge going to go. I don't know if there was a turn in there. There's nothing appeared on my screen, on my highlights counter, which means we're going to have to do something that looks very bad because it's not realistic in the slightest. But we're just going to flat out rewind it. Sorry, Jamie, for interrupting you here. It looked like there was. You can actually watch, if you're on the Discord, you can actually watch my stream. And this, I'm not sure who he's coming up. I think it's Jack Fielder Clifford's in the damaged Porsche. And Fielder Clifford's just turns across him, doesn't he?
It did look like that, to be honest. What do you think, Jamie?
It was quite a late defensive move from Jack. Obviously, he's got a slightly damaged car, and he seems to defend from him from the last second and causes the Ferrari nowhere to go, really.
Well, you're right. It's supposedly a defensive move, but at Le Mans, it's very easy to see if someone changes direction because one, he's on the racing line and he's in the right-hand lane. He clearly goes over to the left-hand lane to try and come up. So there's a definite move, isn't there? There's no need to see the steering wheel. There is a definite move of the car there, and I don't think Jack Fielder Clifford has entirely covered himself in glory there because I think. No, I thought Nigel Stock was actually a backmarker, but no, they were actually racing for position, but still not entirely impressive. I don't think Nigel Stock's probably very impressed with that one. Anyway, sorry, carry on, Jamie. So the Legends on a Wednesday night, that's moving to Monday, is it?
Yep, so it's moving to Monday. We're continuing with similar size grids, anywhere really in the high 20s at the minute. Racing week in, week out with some fairly big names. Some of them, Jack, I know you did a podcast with him. Was it yesterday?
Yeah, we did it a couple of weeks ago, but it dropped yesterday with Bobby Thompson.
Yeah, one of the title contenders, as well as GT5 driver and BMW Compact Championship winner recently, Mikey Doble, who took the championship last week out. So yeah, we've got some good names in there to come race with, but we're doing 2 championship, one for the pro drivers and one for the sim, as well as the overall. So yeah, it's one of another one of NXTGEN's great leagues like this GTE GT3 collaboration. It's going to happen next year, as well as what we do on Race Room and on console. So yeah, we pretty much race every day of the week. If anyone wants to join a league, whether they're on console or on PC, just have a look at our Facebook page.
Absolutely, yeah, and we were just speaking about the difference of the that the GTE will be doing in terms of it. It will be £3 to enter per week, or obviously £30 to sort of put that cost up front, and you'll get 20% off in total if you do that sort of straight away before the season starts. Is that a similar thing that's going to be happening? Oh, Neil Andrews locking up and going straight on. That means Aaron Taylor, who has been catching the previous laps, Aaron Taylor has been catching by about a second to a second and a half, that previous lap actually, per lap. So it went down from 8 seconds when we first saw Taylor get into second to now 2.5 as we're starting to see the gap close up. And I think Taylor ultimately has the faster pace around here at Le Mans, even though he has nearly half the I rating of Andrews, which is quite impressive. So we will start seeing a little battle, and these 2 cars must be some of the only cars that don't have any damage on them at the moment, which is quite impressive and a feat to say. They will obviously have to start thinking about coming into the pits at some point soon because the fuel will probably be running out. But keep an eye on this battle as Taylor now tries to hunt down on Neil Andrews. But yeah, going back to you, Jamie, again. Sorry, I keep interrupting you with this racing that's been going on. I can't believe it. But yeah, is it going to go a similar way, the Legends, and a few other series that you got going on?
Yeah, so obviously it's to make things almost to the next level, like a lot of competitive competition sim races are. Sim groups is a pay to enter. Reason being is hopefully people will take things a bit more seriously and also keep the numbers high. Find, and throughout our years, our 20 seasons, that if you do a free season, people join, don't do so well and leave, and it can dwindle towards the end, which doesn't look good, even though we have the people behind it. So with a pay to enter series, people feel like they're losing out, so they will hopefully continue to participate in that league, no matter where they are, and still get the rewards as long as they complete it.
But crucially as well, it's not exactly like they're paying, you know, 50, 60 pounds to enter these leagues, is it? It's I mean, for instance, the GTE GT3 series is one of the longer series that's going to be for next year, because the formats have slightly changed, haven't they? I mean, we had a 10 round, every next gen series has been 10 rounds, obviously with 1 week break in the middle until next series where the format changes, so you get 12 rounds for the GTE GT3, but it's still only £30, isn't it? Which is pretty good going. So it's crucially not out of the realms of possibility for someone who wants to enter even week by week and just pay £3. It's not that bad.
No, exactly. It's we've basically restructured Next Gen going forward. I feel like we're a bit behind the times, so we've, as admin, have had a little chat and put our heads together and thought of new ways of bringing Next Gen to the next level, as mentioned. And part of that is to let the people who run their leagues, like Matt and this, and basically let him run wild and do what he wants to do. If he thinks his series will benefit from 12 rounds rather than 10, then so be it. And hopefully it'll encourage, he knows his drivers better than anyone else. So it will help him have a bit more free reign and get the drivers on board and get what he wants from his league, because he's putting all the hard work behind the scenes. So, yeah.
Well, I think you got every point there, to be honest. I always liked Next Gen's how uniform it was, I suppose. But other people are out there doing, making leagues and everything like that. And at the end of the day, you have to do what the customer wants, and the customer is the drivers, isn't it? Obviously, as well as the people who are watching. And obviously, there's a couple of people watching at the moment who might want to tune in to, say, the Legends next season as well. I'm sure they have been watching it this season as well on the Wednesday, which probably means they know where to catch it for next season. But have you managed to secure? Is Alex still going to be broadcasting on a Monday for you as well?
Well, hopefully. I mean, it's one of those things that negotiations are always there. It's like similar motorsport. You probably find out that the full contract, so to speak, as we shall call it, doesn't happen until day dot. There's always little bits moving around, doing things, trying to make things better, trying to make things work, trying to get the best package, trying to make everything. It's a very, like I said, it's similar, as you would know from real life. You can never guarantee what's going to happen, but you just strive and push in the off season to do the best we can and bring the best series we can to people's eyes and to the drivers alike.
Absolutely, yeah. I've heard some of the names that have been battered about for, to cover this series. Obviously, not really necessarily any of the other series, but and I have to say that even if I can't do it, which obviously I would love to do, and if I could sort of jump onto any Next Gen next season, then I absolutely would have done. But some of the other names that have been battered about are fantastic as well. So it's not like people are coming to pay to enter, but it's not like we're getting newbies broadcasting it either. It's going to be a proper broadcasting setup. I mean, some of the companies and the people who I've sort of heard getting it potentially involved are, extremely high, probably higher end than what I'm doing, because at the end of the day, I just jump on and just shout about the racing, and these guys are going to put an awful lot of effort into the broadcasting, and hopefully it'll be the product that everyone at Next Gen wants, everybody at home watching will want, as well as the drivers will want. So I'm sure next season is going to be an absolute blast, and I hope you've had a blast this season as well, Jamie.
Yeah, it's been a mega season. I mean, to be honest, obviously Bobby approached me with doing the Legends, obviously seeing what we've done in racing in that PMR series we done. I said, yeah, we can try and do something. We sat down, had a little chat, put both our minds together, what I know from the sim world, what he knows from the real world, and it took off better than I ever anticipated. Obviously going forward, we've now got a even bigger reach in real world and sim world, where the videos have been going, and Bobby speaking up and down multiple pit lanes and on his training days. It's taken off to something that I never thought would. I mean, some of the names that potentially could be coming in next year, and that are even here is phenomenal, and I think we're one of the leading with pro drivers, so to speak. So yeah, something to take away, and I think Matt's got a few things potentially up his sleeve for next season, but as always, we work hard and we get the rewards. Fingers crossed.
Well, that's exactly what we're hoping for, isn't it? Because NXTGEN are a fantastic community, always have been since I've been involved with the PMRE series. And I tell you what, they provide great racing and attract great drivers, like you've mentioned, including the two that we're actually watching now, because Aaron Taylor is caught right up to the back of Neil Andrews here, and it seems that it's sort of almost inevitable, isn't it? These cars, like mentioned before, they are some of the cleanest cars that we've got on the grid at the moment in terms of the damage on everybody else's. But they are the two leading ones. Neil Andrews has enjoyed himself 45 minutes pretty much in the lead of this race. Aaron Taylor has had to spend the majority of that time trying to fight back his lead that he actually got in qualifying. Unfortunately, I think it was the second lap. Aaron Taylor ended up having a bit of a spin, which we had a quick look back on a couple of times. We have actually, I've completely forgotten, we're almost 45 minutes into this race. Completely forgot about the fact that we should probably have a look at some of the incidents right at the beginning of the race. Maybe not yours, Jamie, because I don't think that your technology did you any favours, did it? So I'll save you blushes there. But obviously a few little incidents. And I suppose, since I've got two drivers here, what's it like when you're in Neil Andrews' position? I'll go to, if Matt, are you there? Yeah, Matt, what if you're in Neil Andrews' position now, so you're leading this, you've got a quick driver, let's say you've got Jamie Dory hunkered up behind you, right? He's been catching you pretty much every lap for the last 8 laps. What's your thought process here? You got an hour and a quarter to go. Do you let him go and just try and follow him in the slipstream, or do you try and fight for that position?
I wouldn't try and fight for the position, to be honest. With an hour and 15 minutes left, I wouldn't want to start overheating my tyres or anything like that, doing anything that could put us in a position where it's going to cause damage, give us headaches. So I'd just let him go, and after the pit stop, go from there, try and catch him back up and get in his slipstream, and then, like Aaron Taylor's doing now, just be in his mirrors and just say, hello, I'm back.
Well, we're coming to sort of that area where, one, the lights are actually starting to come on the cars, isn't it? Since we've been chatting to Jamie, it's suddenly got dark, hasn't it? I'm guessing the server is set to follow real time because the sun is setting outside as well in the UK. And we're expecting to see the drivers start to sort of come in for their pits every so often now. Realistically, a lap round here is nearly 4 minutes long, even in these GTE cars. And that means that they must be coming in at the end of this lap, if not the next one.
It could be in the next 5 to 10 minutes, depending on if they've been fuel saving, and like you say, if they've been fuel saving, to be honest.
Well, Jamie, you've been driving, or admittedly, you only did 2 laps, but you did practice in qualifying as well. But so what's Le Mans like to drive in these GTEs? Because they're very tentative on the brakes, aren't they? We've seen that everywhere, especially around Imola and Suzuka and stuff like that. And Brands Hatch, they're just locking up constantly. Is it a similar story? Because Matt at the beginning of the stream mentioned that they have a little bit of a bump towards the end of the lap, and that can cause, I don't know about the sim, but in real life, if the car is bumping up and down, you can cause lockup because the car goes light every so often, and that locks the tyres up, and then you're pretty screwed. Is that the case around here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with iRacing, even though they use old laser scanning, they're still very accurate. So you do feel, especially down the Mulsanne, you feel the bumps, you feel the camber on the track, and there's some hairy corners, there's some nasty bumps, and they're great fun to try and drive. As always, they provide a good bit of racing, but unfortunately, some things don't go all to plan, like me.
Well, no, hopefully he'll be back next season, though. Fingers crossed, obviously, work providing. But just as we were chatting about pitting, Colin Martin and George Bland have actually come into the pits. Now, there are a few drivers in the pits that haven't re-emerged, put it that way. I think Nigel Stock, Jack Fielder Clifford, and obviously yourself, Jamie. But it looks like Colin Martin and George Bland have actually decided that they're going to come in this lap. Let's have a look. George Bland we're having a look at now. Actually, Colin Martin's on his way back out, so this is the first time that we're going to be seeing where they're going to come out, how long it's going to take in the pit lane as well. Colin Martin, I could say, was in the pit lane from the start of the pit lane to the speedo to the end of the pit lane was 1 minute and 20 seconds. He was actually stopped for 43 of those. So that probably means fuel And I don't know, I haven't been looking at the actual screen. Has George Bland been up on the jacks at all?
I think he has. I think he's just taking fuel there.
He may well just be taking fuel. Yeah, so the tyres may be starting to come off, because I'm not sure how much time that would add on if you wanted to take tyres, but it would add a substantial amount on. If that bloody Michelin thing wasn't in the way, we'd be able to see.
We were debating in practice, a few of us, whether to take tyres, because in an endurance race, these cars can quite easily do a double stint, so a 2 hour on tyres, sometimes 3, depending on track temperature. So some people might pit for tyres, depending how hard they're driving the car, and some might stay out on the same set throughout the 2 hours.
Be very interesting tactically, won't it? Morgan De Beer, hello, as he says on the Facebook chat. Well, hello to you, Morgan. And we also have, we had Billy Bob Ray as well, right at the beginning of the stream. He's hoping to join, hoping to find out how to join for Season 2. Whoops, I thought he said he had joined for Season 2. I probably should have told him that about an hour ago when he asked that. Sorry, Billy. Hopefully the chat that we've had for the last half an hour with Jamie and Matt will have shed some light potentially on it. But basically, message NXTGEN and see who answers. One of them is the admin, probably going to be Jamie Lee Horn or Matt Emmons, and they will give you an answer basically on what you want to do, what you want to race on, and there'll be a league for you, I'm sure. Phil McDougall has also been on the chat. He's saying that he's basically very much enjoying this race between Andrews and Taylor. Then obviously he's got the other, well, you've got Lack and Hodges rounding out the top 4 at the moment, and Jack Fielder Clifford's unfortunately retired all the way down in 11th place. So, yeah, there's having quite a good few people jumping on the chat, and see CXR Racing is actually on the YouTube chat. Phil McDougall is on the Facebook chat. A little bit of a cross-platform CXR there. But we're having a right good battle here, haven't we? Nearly 50 minutes into this race. Sorry, I'm just reading the Facebook chat again. Nearly 50 minutes into this race, and there's still battles brewing, isn't it? I mean, it's sort of what we expected, I guess, from the GTE league, because it has been good endurance racing in the 45-minute feature races, hasn't it, Matt? But equally, when it starts getting hotting up, you could almost be mistaken for looking at a sprint race.
Yeah, it all depends on the track, to be honest, I think, in my opinion. I mean, I've learned a bit from this season which tracks have been good to do the feature races on and which haven't. It all depends on, well, a lot of things, really. It depends on how good the qualifying is for the drivers, how quick the drivers are, damage. It weighs into a lot of things, to be honest. But, I mean, I think this race, it's been perfect track for the 2 hour endurance race.
Now, I think... Don't know what your theory is. I've come on board with Aaron Taylor because he's been hunkered up behind Andrews for a lap, which is about 4 minutes. I think he's fuel saving. He doesn't look to be attacking the car ahead, does he? But you can just hear, I don't think he's at full throttle, don't you think?
No, to be honest, looking at it, he's on the second bit of the straight, and he's still nowhere near the red line. I think he is fuel saving. What do you think, Jamie?
I think he's trying to get to the hour mark and then do a one-stopper rather than a splash and dash at the end. So, yeah, I agree with you both.
It's a long way, though, a lap, isn't it? He's obviously trying to save enough fuel to go one extra lap, basically, than Andrews, I imagine. But that estimate is very difficult to make here. It's not like we're at Donington, where basically, it's only about a minute and a half lap. 4 minutes. If you get it wrong and you end up running out of fuel on the Mulsanne straight, it can be horrific, can't it? And it'll obviously be a horrible feeling. You'll have to end up just spawning back to the pits, which you then get a towing penalty, and then you have to fuel, and then you have to change tyres if he wants to change tyres. I don't imagine he will if he's trying to go as long as he possibly can. He'll probably be trying to save as much time in the pits as he possibly can and take track position rather than speed on a one-lap pace. But it can be a dangerous strategy at a track that is as big as this, can't it?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we done a endurance race round here a little while ago, and unfortunately one of our drivers didn't get the message to box and done exactly what he said. He ran out of fuel on the Mulsanne straight, and we were battling for P1 in our split in our 24-hour race last year, and it inevitably put us a lap down, and we finished P2 in the race overall. So we lost a complete lap through towing, unfortunately, for running out of fuel. So it's a long old penalty if you don't get it right.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just going to keep on board because actually they're both pitting in now. So Taylor, although he may be fuel saving, it still work to his advantage if he was fuel saving as well, though, won't it? Because he won't have to be in the pit for quite as long. So he may well still have a shorter pit stop and get out ahead of Andrew. So he may not have gone for the full risk of having to be out there for another full lap and running the risk of running out of fuel, basically. But he will be stopped for less time. Ed Lack has also come into the pits. We have had a crash, I believe, for Nigel Stock, Miles Owens, and Matt Hodges, all relatively close to each other. I'm not sure if there's any relation to them at all, because none of them were actually that close to each other. But I will keep an eye on that. It may well just be one of those little fun iRacing glitches where they're just going slightly off circuit, and that counts as a crash. The most annoying one of which is at Spa, where a driver comes into the pit and it classifies as a crash for some reason. It's the most annoying thing in the world. Jochen Sigert in the BMW is the first person who, well, the person in the lead, I suppose, who hasn't pitted yet. He's in 5th. The CXR Project Black boys will be out very soon, I'm sure. We're just keeping an eye on them as who's just gone past there. I think it was someone unlapping themselves. Ed Lack's actually the first driver away there in the Ford. He was only stopped for 23 seconds. Aaron Taylor and Neil Andrews had stopped for nearly double that, and in fact, they're on the jacks.
They must be. Yeah, I think they're getting tyres, which is quite a shocking thing. I thought, like Jamie said, you can double or triple stint these tyres normally if you look after them. So,
indeed,
strange.
Neil Andrews has come back out, and he has come back out in second, but not because Aaron Taylor is overtaking him in the pit lane. It's because Ed Lack has overtaken both of them by literally halving the amount of time that he's been in the pit lane. So they were stopped. Ed Lack was stopped. Let's focus on him. For 23.5 seconds there. Neil Andrews was stopped for 51 seconds. Aaron Taylor was stopped for nearly a minute at 58 seconds. So, I mean, Ed Lack was in it for about a third of the time that Aaron Taylor was in there. And as a consequence, Ed has now got a 14-second gap. Now, there's a huge puff of smoke there. I'm not entirely sure who that is. But that does mean that Ed has the poorer tyres, doesn't it? Because he hasn't taken tyres. There's no chance he has. He may well need a splash and dash at the end. This could be very... I'm actually quite surprised that the CXR Project Black guys have gone for such an alternative strategy, Jamie.
I think what they might be doing is potentially they feel they've got the pace to pit for the tyres and then push 100% of the race all the way to the end and go for fastest lap as well as getting the win. So I think they feel comfortable with their strategy where if it was me, I probably wouldn't have gone for tyres and tried to just hold on and battle in the closing stages. But if you've got the pace and you feel comfortable, then why not take a little bit of a risk?
I suppose there's that age-old argument, Matt, that it's, would you rather have track position or would you rather have the ultimate pace? And I think for most tracks, if you're talking Alton Park, if you're talking even Donington, potentially, places like that, Snetterton, I would say, Silverstone even, potentially, because there's not that many braking zones, I would take track position over pace. But at Le Mans, it's slightly different. Nordschleife, I'd take track position over absolutely. I'll drive with 3 wheels and take track position over having 4 wheels. But around Le Mans, it's so easy to use that draft assistance. It's almost like just whacking DRS open 3 times a lap, isn't it? There's an opportunity to overtake every 50 metres.
Yeah, there is, to be fair. And to be honest, I'd have to agree with Jamie. I'd have to go for ultimate pace in this if I had the choice. Just because you could have the track position, but as we've seen, the Mulsanne Straight is just the great equaliser. You need the slipstream, and you're basically going to get past if you time it right out of the last chicane.
You absolutely are, yeah. And we can finally go back and have a little look at Nigel Stock's incident. Now, I'm not sure if this is an old incident, because Nigel Stock he's still going. He's actually progressing, I think. So I thought he'd retired. So no, he's actually gone straight on, though. He's had a crash earlier on at that corner, but it wasn't quite on his own as that one was. Just seemed to lose it. Now, what would have happened there, Jamie? Would it have just been losing the rear end? How's that happened, though?
Yeah, I think it could be brake bias. I find these cards quite difficult to set up with brake bias. It's quite easy to set them too far forward that you look up under offload braking. Or to be honest, if you set it one, yeah, I think he was hitting the brakes whilst turning there in the back end, stepped out where he's just got the bias one or two clicks too far back. Easily done.
Yeah, we have another one here, Matt, as well. This is Miles Owens. This is potentially going to be at the same sort of incident. Let's have a look. He's going to go into... no, he's going to go straight on. It's actually a Jamie Dory, we'll call that for now. Sorry, Jamie, that's probably a bit harsh.
Jamie actually made it between the tyres, though. There's the difference.
Only on the second one. Yeah, no, that's a bit gutting for Miles, isn't it? And now he's damaged the front end. Phil, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was actually going to mention this before when I was reading off your comments. No trading paints, unfortunately. For some reason, my trading paints has thrown a hissy fit. It just won't connect to the server at all. When I try and launch it up, it just closes itself instantly. It's almost like it wants to update. I tell it to update, and then it just crashes. But it won't let me do anything before it tells me it needs to update. So apologies there. No trading paints. And Miles Owens going back off the track as well. I didn't actually know that was going to happen on that replay. I just forgot to go back live, but Miles Owens having another incident there by the looks of it. And the last one is Matt Hodges coming just off sort of back end of the circuit and coming back onto sort of the twisty, windy stuff and just goes straight over. That's a lock of the brakes, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think there was anything else.
So as we jump back live, actually, we've had 3 crashes. Oh, is that... No, we haven't had a change for the race lead, but we have had a highlight involving Ed Lack that says he's crashed, but he hasn't. Now he has lost 10 seconds. And that's why he just goes straight on, just like Miles Owens did. And I tell you what, that's really going to hurt the fact that he's already got poorer tyres than the other 2 behind him. He hasn't got the ultimate pace on them. And now he's going to have front end damage and he's lost 10 seconds, basically. He's going to be a bit of a sitting duck in the next couple of laps, isn't he?
Yeah, especially with his 2 teammates at CXR behind him, especially.
Yeah, and we're not done yet. For some reason, there's been an absolute flurry of crashes around the pit stop window. Jamie Jochen-Sigert, who is obviously a bit of a friend of NXTGEN, isn't he? He's in the BMW at the moment, running in 7th, but it looks like just going into the chicane, just like the Ferrari before, Nigel Stott loses the back end. Maybe not quite as dramatic. But we're starting to see a lot more incidents, and I think Matthew Green maybe had a similar one. Actually, this is going in towards the chicane, isn't it? The first chicane. Through the left-hander. Is it just... Oh, I think that's a clip of the sausage curb. But this sort of letting go of the rear wheels, these brake bias maybe changes or setup changes or anything. Is that maybe to do with the track temperature or the air temperature? Because we're seeing, obviously, a difference in that now. The light has come down. Hopefully, we won't go completely blind. But is that maybe something to do with the environment, Jamie?
Yeah, I was just about to say, looking at all of these, that, to be honest, with doing the Le Mans race, and especially going into night, you've almost got to have a car that's set up for day and night. It's very easy to set a car up for a day round here, but as soon as the temperature starts dropping, sun goes down, it can get a bit hairy, as we can see here. The other thing, which I think could be a factor, is they're coming in, they're doing their pit stops with nice warm tyres, which have been circulating around. They're sitting in the pit boxes for 30, 40 seconds, going back out, not getting the tyres up to temperature as quick as possible, and it's causing little mistakes. But I think, yeah, a part of it could be brake bias as well, to be honest. So I think it's a combination of everything. It's just catching a few drivers unaware.
Ed Lack has come into the pits for the second time in 3 laps. So, although he tried to do the old sort of almost splash and dash technique where he didn't take the tyres, he just took the fuel, it didn't work for him in the end. Maybe he's decided that he can't do the tyres. Maybe he has to fix that problem that he's got now at the front end, because obviously he's got a if we could see it, maybe we'll get a bit of an explanation. Just want to have a look and see if he just goes up on the jack. This means that Neil Andrews has retaken the race lead, so all of a sudden Aaron Taylor, who did close an 8-second gap at one point to Andrews to start fighting with him, but just before the pit stops, gonna have to do everything again. And there we go, Ed Lack back on the well, this time he's actually been boosted up in the air, giving the old flash of lights. Maybe he's watching the live stream. If he can comment whilst he's doing that pit stop, do tell us what happened there, Ed. Why on earth are you back in the pits? I'm guessing it's to fix some damage, but yeah, we could see a different thing. Matthew Green's heading off track. Where's this going? Oh, just to hit the sausage curves through the final bit of chicane, didn't he? Hopefully he doesn't make any contact. No, he doesn't. Otherwise, it would have been classified as a crash and not an off track. But it is starting to test these drivers. Is this when you were expecting fatigue to set in, Matt? Because obviously you chose this 2-hour stint and with the intention that it would test the drivers. Obviously, an hour isn't that much longer than the 45-minute feature race. And realistically, actually, if you take the 20-minute sprint race that we normally have into account, you actually race for an hour and 5 minutes, which we're about to come up to. Everything after this, I wouldn't say it's brand new to the drivers, because obviously they're very experienced drivers, but it's brand new to this championship. And driving it for a continuous amount of time and no break in between is a bit more of a test.
It definitely is. And as I said to Jamie when I first pitched this idea to him, I wanted to do this championship to try and get more people into doing the big special events like the 24 hours of Le Mans, of the Nürburgring and stuff like that. So I thought, how can I make it so that they get used to having that actual seat time that you have at the endurance races, sorry. So I thought, well, you normally do between hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe 3 hours in a car. So I thought, but meet it in the middle at 2 hours. You're getting to see who's going to be able to. They're giving everyone the idea of what it's like to do an endurance race on iRacing.
That's quite an interesting sort of theory, really, put forward, because Jamie, you've mentioned a couple of times that you obviously do quite a bit of endurance racing with the NXTGEN team, obviously, and ironically, actually, it's been cross-posted over to Jacko Racing quite a lot. Your live streams for it, which is quite funny. Luckily, I didn't need the page for those weekends, but it is. From my perspective, as a driver who's a little bit of a novice, and in terms of like sim racing and stuff like that, in terms of actually driving, the idea of jumping into a 24-hour race with 4 other teammates, and you've got a lot of people to let down. It's not just that you're going to crash into someone and potentially ruin their race. If you have a little bit of an off track, or you do end up with the damage or something like that, because you're not used to driving for 2, 3, 4 hours at a time, it is quite daunting. So is that something that you could sort of appreciate, and maybe that's one of the things that you thought, yeah, that could work, and that's why you should, Matt should run with this series?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Matt's done a few endurances alongside us and things. We share drivers with his group. And to be honest, it's, you do have the pressure of letting everyone down, but it's part of endurance racing. It happens in real life. Anything can happen in a 24-hour period. It's just about, the number one thing is to bring the car home and maybe pick and choose your battles wisely. It's a great thing to do. It can be quite tiring if you do 3 hours in a seat and then have 9 hours off, or if you're in the middle of a night stint, it can be quite tiring, but it's part and the parcel of the enjoyment of it. I mean, to be honest, what we try and do is if we've got a number of teams, so like 4 or 5 teams racing in different splits, we try to put new groups together, get them bonded so they know how each other drives, and basically move drivers around occasionally so everyone can just interact with one another. And then if people need to fill other people's shoes, if they're busy or something, then we've always got options ready. So it's endurance racing. It's great, but it can be very stressful, and sometimes you really want to put a steering wheel through your monitor at times as well.
Yeah, never the way to, when you say bring back the car, it's probably not a good way to do that, is to put your steering wheel through a monitor. Yeah, but I can appreciate where you're coming from. Phil McDougall's been on the chat as well, giving his opinion, I suppose, and also he's let us know that Ed Lack, the reason why he came in was indeed because he was losing too much time to damage, and he thought he might as well stick the new tyres on and try and get as much time out of the car now as possible. So there would have been no fuel on Ed Lack's car, but yeah, he has had to come in for that second pit stop. The only other driver who's had to come in for 2 pit stops so far is Miles Owens, down in 8th position. Looks like Nigel Stock, who is, I wouldn't say a lap down, because actually he's on the previous lap because of the amount of time that there is between them. I think he's about to be lapped, is what Nigel Stock's about to be. He's only a couple of tenths behind Owens, I believe that is. Yeah, it is. It is Miles Owens. Yeah, it's a bit confusing without this trading paints on. But Phil's also come on and expressed his sort of opinions on the endurance thing. He loves and hates the pressure of endurance racing. Apparently, CXR did a 24-hour with only a few seconds between us. Us and first at Daytona for the whole 24-hour, never felt more alive. So that is the thrill that endurance racing can come up with, actually, Matt, isn't it? Because I was never a fan of endurance racing in terms of actually watching the thing. Yeah, I thought it was always a bit dull. My brother raced in British GT, and with Rick Parfitt Jr., actually, who's obviously now on the British touring car paddock against Tom, which is quite ironic. And they did GT4 and they did GT3. And because it never went well, I think the car broke down every single time. It was a Ginetta GT3, and there's a reason why there's no longer a Ginetta GT3 on the grid. And it's because it broke down every time. And to me, going all the way down to a cold, wet Silverstone to watch 3 hours of Tom being 3 laps down was something that I didn't consider enjoyable. And so it ruined my GT experience. But ever since coming back on to do commentary and stuff, I have fallen in love with GT a little bit more, and it's a fantastic form of racing, isn't it? It's the ultimate form of racing as well. It's the ultimate test.
It's definitely the ultimate test when you think there's, for the 24-hour races, I think, is it 4 or 5 normally in a team, Jamie?
It varies on teams and how they feel comfortable. Yeah, sometimes you can have anywhere from, to be honest, we do 4 in our team. Some people have 5, some people have 6. You know, I try and accompany anyone, so whatever they feel comfortable with, we try and sort out.
Yeah, just don't do like me and George did at Daytona this year. We thought, we'll do it as a pair. We'll do 12 hours apiece.
There's a reason I didn't join you for that one. It sounded like a mental idea.
It was good. I mean, we did it for cancer research, and I think we raised just over 400 quid in the end.
Well, that's very admirable then. At least it's worth it, wasn't it?
It was, but the most annoying bit for me was after 14 hours of us driving, yeah, we were both getting really exhausted, like Jamie was saying. It does get to you, especially the night stint. Was after 14 hours, my internet decided to have a moment like Jamie's had tonight, and it speared me into the wall.
Oh, God.
So I felt like crying when I had George woke him back up from his nap, and I had to tell him that we had to retire because my internet had a moment.
Oh, God. See, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, as I say, like, the thing that ruined endurance racing for me in a lot of ways was Tom's experience and me going down to watch it, sort of thing. And it was always something that was unavoidable. I mean, obviously it wouldn't have been internet issues, but it was the alternator more. What is Neil Andrews and Matt Hodges doing in the pits? Sorry, just realised taking away my story a little bit, but Neil Andrews is in the pits. Is this evidence? Are they doing their splash and dash early? Are they refilling their tank so they can now make it to the end? Because these guys did make tyre changes, didn't they? I can't think of any other explanation. Can either of you offer any words of wisdom, potentially?
I think they are just going to splash and dash, and potentially they've calculated their fuel, and they're going to go for the remainder of the race on what they've got now.
So as Neil Andrews comes back out, Ed Lack has retaken second place, but I suppose Ed may... Let me know, Phil, if you're still watching, but has Ed Lack, due to the fact that he has been in twice now, he took full fuel the first time round, then he did 2 laps, was that burning off enough fuel for him to come in, get the stuff repaired, and sort of splash back up to brim to go to the end of the race? It's a pretty tough one to estimate for you guys, but what are your thoughts on that one, maybe?
It's a bit touch and go. Just quickly, I'm going to reboot my PC to fix my files, and I'll be back shortly. But yeah, it's a close one. Bear with us.
What do you think, Matt? Because you estimated 45 minutes at the beginning of this race. Oh, okay. Waldemir Montez, thank you very much for the like.
I don't Ed Lack took full tank of fuel the first time round. I think the second stop, he stopped with the damage and got full fuel. So I think he's gone out on the low fuel to try and put some fast laps in to try and undercut people. That sounded a bit like an F1 commentator here. Undercut Hodges and Andrews, and then come back in after he set the fast laps when he knows they're going to be on full fuel tank loads, and then come in for his second, like Jamie just said, splash and dash, fill the tank up, and just sit there and go for it. I mean, if there's still, I think, Aaron Taylor's still got a pit again because I mean,
Oh, he has. Yeah, he has. He's got to pit. He pitted on lap 14. We're obviously on lap. It's not obvious because I haven't got it up at the top, but Aaron Taylor's about to come across the line. Roughly, obviously it's a long way here at Le Mans. He's got 10% of the lap left, and it'll be going on to lap 19. So he's been out there for 5 extra laps. Will he respond to what his teammates have done? Because obviously they've pitted a lap earlier, realistically, than Aaron.
If he doesn't, it might open the door to Ed Lack for this, because if you look at it, when everyone's had low fuel tanks, they've pitted for about 60 to 80 seconds.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it could have an impact in the championship, this, because you think if Ed Lack wins, he'll move up to third and finish third by 2 points over Matt Acton.
Yeah, well, maybe, yeah, because Aaron Taylor is going for another one. Now, what you can see right now... Ed Lack's just... Hold on. Go back to what we were on.
Just got in the pits again.
He is in the pits. He's just driven into the pits. It's not like he's spawned into the pits. He's decided to come in on of his own steam.
I don't understand what's going on
he
now.
jumped to the pits. No, he went off track. Sorry, I've been looking at my highlights reel. Ed Lack's had a moment here, going through the left. Oh, is he going to just come back on, spat into the inside? Ed Lack, for the second time in about 20 minutes, has had damage, and he's pulled himself back to the pits. Is that a retirement that we're potentially seeing? Because Aaron Taylor's on lap 19. Ed Lack was on lap 18.7 or something. He'd done 70%. And in fact, he's disappeared.
Out.
He's disappeared.
Oh, wow. And Colin Martin's out as well.
Oh, Matt Hodges has had a crash. Sorry, let's just have it. Oh, why is this being like this? Come on. This is Matt Hodges. Oh, he's just smacked the outside wall there.
And it's lost the back end. What's happening here now?
There's a lot of debris, isn't there, now going around this circuit?
And like Jamie was saying, the temperatures have dropped. I did warn them that the dynamic sky would be turned on, so we would be going to night.
Well, this could be some drama. Phil McDougall is probably watching this thinking, what on earth is happening to my drivers right now? Well, you still have the race lead. And to be honest... he's gone again. Yeah, and that's a very, very damaged Porsche right now, isn't it?
It very is.
Well, what's the track? What's the tyre temperature situation like? Obviously, you won't know exactly in the car, but as soon as you go off, do the tyre temperatures go straight down? Because I know on some sims in like F1, if you touch the gravel, the tyre temperature just disappear instantly. Is it similar in iRacing?
Say it just disappears in iRacing. I mean, they do start to cool off quite quickly, because obviously it's the track's going to be the hottest bit because everyone's going around it. But yeah, they do cool off. But it's just the fact that the ground is going to be so cold compared to what you're used to. So it's not so much that the tyres start to cool off. It's the fact that the surface you're contacting isn't hot enough to grip it, or isn't smooth enough to grip it, so to speak. Is Matt Hodges in the pit? Oh yeah, we've just seen Matt Hodges in the pit lane again, haven't we?
Yeah, Hodges is in the pit lane, so it's actually starting to become a little bit more difficult to figure out who's going to be where. And Hodges, it does still say he's in the pits. He hasn't disconnected yet. Apparently, there he is. Ed Lack has come on to the chat and he's said that he's been meatballed, apparently. So that is why Ed Lack had to come back in. He couldn't... Well, I'm guessing you didn't want to drive the car back, and maybe you just fancied retiring at the end of it, unfortunately. So I suppose the situation now, we have to round back up, because Aaron Taylor still has to pit. He has to do his splash and dash. Nigel Stocks just had a crash as well. Nigel Stocks has crashed and come back into the pits as well. Have a look at him, but we'll try and run down the order before it changes completely again. Aaron Taylor has to come into the pits to do his splash and dash. He's currently in first, a minute and a half ahead of Neil Andrews, but Neil Andrews has done his second pits, his splash and dash. So there's every opportunity that could be whittled down to about 20 seconds, which is still a massive margin, obviously. But Aaron Taylor has been the quicker car.
Taylor's coming in the pits.
Yeah, there we go. Taylor is coming into the pits. Now, he does need to do that. That is planned. So that's fair enough. He's got 40 minutes left. This is his fuel back up to the brim, basically. The car that's going through is not... Neil Andrews. It's actually Miles Owens. So he's Miles Owens just going through, unlapping himself, and then he's got Green as well to go past, and then it's Andrews. So a minute and a half back. And what's crucial as well, though, is that Aaron Taylor was the car that was doing all the catching. He was the fast guy. He was also the person who qualified on pole. Well, he's got the race lead, so it's not like Andrews has had the ultimate pace on Taylor. So I think as long as they keep it safe, Taylor's probably pretty confident right now that he can keep this race lead. We'll have a look at Neil Andrews as he's trying to catch back up, but he's a long way back, isn't he?
I think he's just come off the Mulsanne straight, or is he?
He's still on it.
Yeah, he's still on it.
But Jochen Sigurd, though, he's up to third. Best of the rest all of a sudden has become quite important because it could become the bottom of the podium.
George in fourth.
Yeah, let's have a look. Yeah, oh yeah, George Bland after falling down to last place. There you go, Matt. George Bland up to fourth place. A good recovery drive by him. Nigel Stock. Let's have a look and see what happened to him as George Bland just crashes into a cone. He's in the Ferrari, so he's the second in this little train by the looks of it. On the middle of the
the front brake's locked up. I think Jamie will agree with me now. He's back.
Yes, that looked like that. It just turned sharp left.
I have to be honest, that was looking odd because it was already drifting to the left. It looked like Nigel was struggling with the camber or something. As soon as he hits the brakes, I've never seen that happen. I'll be honest. Is that a common thing?
I've never seen it happen there, to be honest.
I can't say I've seen it either.
Normally go straight on into the tyre balls. No comment.
2.5 seconds all of a sudden, the difference between Taylor and Andrews. So there is Colin Martin in the middle. He's a lapped car. That's why he's getting out of the way. So all of a sudden now, it is open air between Taylor and Andrews. So although it was a minute and a half, the gap just before Taylor decided to come in for the pits, he was in the pits for such a long time that it's actually opened the door for Andrews to be in on this fight. But he's going to have to close up a little bit more because the slipstream is not going to be that effective at nearly 3 second gap, is it?
No, I think I want to ask you and Jamie a question now, Jack.
Oh God, this is dangerous. I'm being the one asking. I'm the asking the questions here. I don't know anything.
So, right, Jack, we know you've been a professional driver, and Jamie, with all your experience, if you were Andrews now and you caught Taylor, what do you do?
I'll let you go first, Dory.
Oh, thanks a lot. I'd have to just go for it, to be honest. It's getting to the closing stages. You would have to just try everything you can, see how the car behaves when you're getting close to him, and react accordingly to that. Last thing you want to do is throw it away, though. So, yeah, with risk come reward, but also you can't throw it away. So it's got to be a finely judged line. But to finish second, I think his famous phrase is first of the losers, really, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I suppose. I think, obviously, I can only draw on sort of real life experience, and the fact that I've never done. Well, I have done a couple of endurance events. I did the Burkitt 6 hours a couple of times for the 750 Motor Club in a Ginetta G40, which was always very good fun. Phil, thank you very much for the like on the stream. What I can say is I've never had a comms person in my ear. Like, I haven't had a team principal in my ear telling me anything. So what I would do if I was just sat in the car, like I was in the Burkitt, catching up someone, even if it was my teammate, which obviously this is the situation, I would agree with Jamie. I'd go for it. I'd just gun it. I'd try and get past him. Personal pride. Want to win. I want to be the sort of top team, I suppose, within the team, if that makes sense. But I know for a fact, having been involved in obviously racing and stuff like that, and it probably will be the same for if NXTGEN were ever running in the same split and they were running 1-2, you would just take the 1-2 as a team, wouldn't you? You would if Phil, I'm sure he's not, but if he was on the comms to both of them, and this was obviously a big championship like a World Series, or if it was real life sort of thing, I know full well that the league that the team principal would be on the mic basically saying, just take first and second. We've seen third, fourth, and fifth all disappear from us. Don't lose first and second. Having said that, I very much hope that they just got it for each other.
I think that makes 3 of us, to be honest.
I was going to say, I'm guessing that's where you would lie as well, Matt. I think that's the biggest difference, to be honest, that I've sort of noticed in sim racing, is the fact that the way the races are treated and the way sort of the attitude towards I wouldn't say that there's no fear in sim racing, because obviously it means a lot. You want to finish, like Jamie said, the endurance stuff. The first rule of endurance is basically trying to get the car to the end, and that's still true even in sim racing. But in real life racing, you have no idea how paramount that is, because obviously you've got a £300,000 car or something to get to the end, and if you wreck it at 3 a.m. in the morning around Le Mans, then you got a lot of people angry at you, including your accountant, haven't you? Whereas in sim racing, you can think that way in, oh, I can attack the next person, because if I crash, it's gutting, it's emotionally exhausting, and all that sort of thing. But you don't have a £300,000 bill at the end of it, do you?
No, you've got the reset button, haven't you, Jamie?
Yeah, you're quite lucky. Like I'm trying to do now, I'm trying to join back in just to see the session on the way out, see how things go, just to get the numbers in for the final race. But yeah, it's one of those things that, you know, iRacing's quite an expensive sim, probably the most expensive out there.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you don't have the big bills.
Yeah, I think I was speaking to a person who runs leagues. I commentate with them on a Tuesday, and they run leagues on Assetto Corsa, which obviously is one of the sims where you buy the product, and then because of all the mods, I thought he was heading for a tie wall then, Hill Andrews, a couple of puffs of smoke up ahead, and that's a shame actually, because he's caught him up to less than 2 seconds now, and there's every opportunity that he'll catch him up again. But yeah, I was speaking to him, and obviously Assetto Corsa is one of those sims that I don't think you guys do much of on Next Gen for the PC. But all the mods are free because they're just made by enthusiasts, so you just buy the thing and buy all the DLCs that come with it. But then there's a plethora of mods, loads of different tracks as well, so you can make a championship sort of just with mods, which is a pretty cool way of doing it. And they don't like iRacing because they just call it iRenting, because obviously you pay a subscription fee compared to a one-off cost. But I have to say, from a broadcasting perspective, it's easily the best to broadcast on. It's the most accessible for broadcasting, and it's also, I don't know about you guys if you've ever experienced, probably Jamie more than Matt, about organising championships on a different sim. But iRacing is pretty good for that, isn't it? Because you can create basically a league, you can create the servers well in advance, the servers go live. They do cost, it's really annoying that they cost, but it is a fantastic sort of tool. It's a very usable tool, I suppose, isn't it, Jamie?
Yeah, 100%. I've basically said to a few people who we're across a load of platforms, Assetto Corsa, we have done Assetto Corsa, Competizione, iRacing, and Race Room. So we've been across a lot of the board. However, the thing I say about iRacing is what it does. It's not the best in any particular field, but it's just the finesse on most of the things that iRacing do. They've thought about it, and the thing which that does is it brings in the bigger names, it brings in the bigger car franchises, which are happy to put their name to iRacing, like Porsche, like Ferrari. You have to be pretty special to get the actual manufacturers supporting them. I mean, iRacing with their Dallara project they done with the IR01, it's just a phenomenal development that they went through for however long they did. Also, circuit-wise, they've got the licensing agreements for things like that, and it's just they just do that extra bit of finesse. And I think that's what you pay for. It's just the ease, the finesse, and the quality / driver as a whole, I think's just got that little edge. Not saying the others are any worse, but I think iRacing have just got that niche market, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it's obviously, it has its quirks, isn't it? But it's so difficult. It's like the tyre models, I think. A lot of racing drivers and stuff. I mean, I was speaking to Bobby Thompson, as you know, a couple of weeks ago, and before we sort of recorded the podcast, we were talking about it a little bit. And obviously, I record the podcast with a commentary friend of mine called Chaz Draycott, who commentates primarily on iRacing as well as a lot of other real life stuff as well. He's a bit further ahead than me in my career, but they were talking about basically how difficult it is to model a tyre, and it's quite interesting hearing Bobby talk about it, because obviously it's something that I've come across before, but I suppose I couldn't really articulate it in the same way. I didn't have the same weight backing me up in terms of, obviously, Bobby is a proper professional driver, whereas I was just an am in a couple of series sort of thing, where it's very difficult to program a tyre, because it's almost like a living thing. Lap by lap, corner by corner, it will change continuously. So it's not just a 1 and a 0. It's not on or it's off. It's a case of, every lap the tyre will warm up slightly differently, therefore it will react to the surface slightly differently, and then you'll hit a curb, and then you'll hit some slipstream and dirty air and everything like that. And so I think you're right. I think iRacing as a whole does a pretty good job of doing it all across the entire, all the cars that it includes. Difficult to get them all right. The MX-5 is very hit and miss, but I think it is quite impressive. Also is quite impressive is the battle that we got going on right now for the race lead, and I thought they were just going to chill out, which is why I wasn't really reacting to it at all. But Taylor let Andrews through, and then the other way around, and then obviously they're fighting back, and Taylor's now got back into the race lead against Andrews. But this is heating up nicely, isn't it, Matt?
It definitely is, and I mean, we said it at the beginning of the stream, didn't we? We were hoping for this kind of battle in from the CXR boys, and I'm glad to say we've got it.
We have indeed, yeah. Phil McDougall in the chat. I'm pretty sure he's holding his breath as he's seeing this a little bit, because although there may not be team orders, it doesn't quite work like that in this championship. It wouldn't really float the boat of any of the other drivers. It's still a case of you want that 1, 2, 3, and I'll tell you what, if this goes badly, I think Jochen Sickert could be in for a race win here on his return, because Andrews and Taylor are going side by side for what has been essentially half a lap now, haven't it? And it's impressive, the speed of the drivers as well, but the racecraft and the spatial awareness in a sim is something that is a lot more difficult than people appreciate, I think. As Andrews goes wide, Taylor trying to go around the outside now. Not going to happen there, but a little bit of a cutback, Jamie. That was almost a fantastic move, but he's just settled down. Yeah, the racecraft and sort of spatial awareness in a sim is so much harder than in real life, and I don't think people appreciate that when they sort of view this stuff. You say, oh, it's a video game or something like that. Well, yeah, it is a video game. It is a rather accurate one, and it is a rather difficult one. And unless you have the triple monitors or the VR setup, it's very difficult to race as close as what these guys are doing for a consistently long amount of time. And I reckon if we look at the end of this lap, these guys will still be lapping about the same pace as probably Jochen Sickert is in third at the moment, because that's how quick these guys are at the moment. But it is, I mean, Jamie, you've obviously been racing against these guys or not been able to be involved at all, but it is a bit of a spectacle to see these guys fighting it out.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I said, there's some very quick drivers in here, and it's a great driver caliber that are involved here. Like you were saying with the whole driving a sim, the only difference that, obviously speaking to a lot of real world drivers that you experience in real life compared to in a sim, is the feeling, the G-force, feeling the car through your bum and things like that. It's the only real difference. However, Bobby's a prime one. He goes, it's harder in his eyes to drive a sim because you don't have the vision, you don't have the feeling. It's all coming through what is essentially your wheel.
Well, yeah, and that actually, then all of a sudden, the equipment does actually matter, doesn't it, somewhat? I mean, obviously, you can jump on with a Logitech G29 or something, and you can have a good time and everything, but if you jumped onto a direct drive wheel compared to your Logitech G29, you would see a huge difference. It would take a while to get used to, but there would be a massive difference in it. As Taylor now going side by side yet again with Andrews down into the first chicane, it's going to be, I believe, Taylor on the inside to have that move done. But like we were discussing before, Matt, the beauty of Le Mans is the fact that there's not just one or two braking zones like Silverstone. There is just he can attack him now again and probably get back into the lead of this race by the next chicane.
And all he needed was a good exit from that last chicane. That's exactly what we were saying before. There's that many overtaking zones. It's made for quite an interesting races. Here he comes again.
As indeed, yeah, slotting up the inside now. You can see he's ahead. It's quite difficult to see the intricacies of this battle when we are in pitch black, but it is nice to see that, there is a little bit of light provided by the driver's headlights. And although many people have been falling off the circuit with maybe struggling to get the grip of the tyres or the tyre temperature maintained, or just the environment playing a factor basically, or maybe even fatigue, these guys seem to be only getting stronger. And I mentioned about the last lap that they were doing. The last lap was 4 seconds quicker, both of them by the way, 4 seconds quicker than Jochen Siggert in third place. Miles Owens, they're 3 seconds quicker than Miles Owens in fourth. And then further down than that, Matthew Green, he had a crash, but he did a 4-minute 15-second lap. He did have a crash halfway through that, so I'll let him off for that one. The only driver who's anywhere near their lap time right now, and he's in clean air doing it, is Ed Lack. So these guys are absolutely on it, even though they are trying to hold it around the outside of each other in pretty much every single corner. There is contact there, but Andrews just nudges Taylor out of the way, misses his braking zone though. He's gone onto the gravel, he won't get spat back off. Oh, that was very close, very lucky there for Andrews not to spit back over, take out his teammate and end his race early as well. So well, this is pretty much going to go down, I think, for the next half hour.
Yeah, I hope so. Anyway, it's making very, very interesting. And I must admit, going back to what you were saying a minute ago about the different types of like pedals and wheels and stuff like that you can buy, the biggest one I found, I think Jamie will agree with me on this, I went from a set of T3 PA Pro pedals on my Thrustmaster to the new TLCMs. And the difference, I mean, you're going from, is it a potentiometer in the T3 PAs to a load cell? It's just a little hall sensor to people that might not understand what I'm talking about right now. It's all down to pressure. And I found half a second or 0.6 a second a lap just in a set of pedals.
I'll be honest, I can understand that as well, because I jumped on sim racing, obviously, and I had a Thrustmaster, basically a Logitech G29, but the Thrustmaster version of it. And yeah, I got it, I don't know, when I was 18, so about 7 years ago, 8 years ago. Oh God, I'm old. 8 years ago, and yeah, it had those. It had those sort of yeah, it's the brake pressure, or the brake from the car is actually based on brake position on your pedals sort of thing, whereas with a load cell it's based on pressure like it would be in a real car, so it's easier to transfer that idea over. And I could not do it with my old set of pedals. All of a sudden I get a load cell and it is 10 times better. I mean, I still can't drive on a sim, but it does make it so much better and easier to drive, in my opinion, because the car, because what you input with your pedals all of a sudden feels like what you would actually do in a car, isn't it? It's almost, you know, you drive in a normal car, in a road car for, well, I don't know, 20 years or something like that you could do. And all of a sudden, if you start sim racing and you have to relearn how to use the pedals, it can be a right pain in the arse, Jamie.
Oh, yeah, 100%. It's the same as the wheels. I mean, you know, I started off iRacing in a G29, and then I went to Fanatec, and it's like night and day. The difference is amazing. It's the feeling through the car, the bumps, like the pedals as well. Going from potentiometer to load cell is just, it's crazy.
It's just the pricing though, isn't it? When you want to start upgrading, I'm looking at, because I'm still on a Thrustmaster TX at the minute, and I've been looking at Direct Drive and Fanatec and is it AccuForce and Sim Magic, and it's
you're talking dangerous money there, aren't you?
Yes, especially when the wife says that this is a waste of money anyway.
Well, I was going to say, you best start commentating instead. That's what I did. Earn the money back. No, it is very important. I mean, I upgraded to the CSL Elite, wheelbase, which is obviously is probably the step in between the direct drive and, say, the Logitech G29, isn't it? It's a bit of the middle ground. It is an upgrade. It feels a lot smoother, but it still uses similar technology. I think it's a belt anyway. It might not be a belt actually in the CSL Elite, but either way, it's not a direct drive. And it was a massive upgrade, and it does feel a lot nicer. But it was, I think, quadruple the price just for the wheelbase, let alone the pedals. That was massive.
Jochen's just been in the pits.
Oh, he has indeed, yeah. Jochen in the pits, but these two still going side by side. And we'll have a look at Jochen in a minute, because it looks like Andrews and Taylor are wanting to settle this once and for all. To be honest, I've lost track of who's where in all this battle, because it's so difficult to follow them in the dark. What I can say is Andrews going off wide there has settled this battle for at least another half a lap, I would say, because until they go back on the Mulsanne straight, it's going to be Taylor in the lead, I think. But it's not done and dusted, is it? Andrews is going to be coming back, and to be honest, they could keep doing this for the entire race. And, you know, we've only got about 20 minutes to go, which means we'll probably finish about 10:30 this evening. But to be honest, that doesn't matter as long as they keep giving us fantastic racing. And you can see Andrews really pushing it in the background. I suppose they probably were listening to us, weren't they, when we were all asking ourselves, what would we do if we were Andrews in this position? Would we chase down Taylor and try and get a good battle, or would we just settle for second place? But it is the finale. There is no championship up for grabs, is there? Because Matt Hodges, although he is all the way down in 8th place and out the race, basically, well, he is out the race, they might as well try and earn as many points as they can. And that pride as well, that inter-team battle, and they're probably treating this as a bit of a fun race for them, since normally they're in very high-pressured sim racing scenarios.
100%. The other thing as well is you always be remembered for your last race. So as they come out of this one, if they win it, they've got bragging rights over the rest of the team.
Can I just ask, Jamie, are you driving currently?
I am.
Oh, God.
I thought your laps were going down on it.
Wow.
I am. I have seemed to have fixed my issue, and I've come out in the middle of the dark and given it a little bash.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jamie, you've got 5 laps to catch up, and then you'll overtake Jack Fielder Clifford. So, good luck with that. I mean, do you want to stay in the comms box, or do you want to...
I'm okay, yeah, I can talk.
Fair enough, then.
You've got 5 laps behind and 20 minutes left, so it's going to be a close one.
I was going to say, if it wasn't for this battle, that might actually be the most exciting thing that we'd have on circuit right now. But at the moment, you're sort of overshadowed a little bit here, Jamie, because, again, Andrews has gone back through on Taylor, and it just goes to show, really, doesn't it? I mean, it's, as I said, if you want to put an endurance race on, use Le Mans, because don't just ignore the Nordschleife, ignore the ring, right? It's pointless. Okay, it's not pointless, but it's boring. Use Le Mans, because every single lap there will be a change. And I remember covering. I don't know if you've ever raced MX5s around here, Matt. Have you?
No, I haven't. I must admit, I've not driven the MX5 since I was a rookie.
No, but I've commentated on a lot of MX5s, and they take like 8 minutes to do a lap round here, which is quite entertaining in itself. Does mean that if you're sort of done on time, and I remember it was a 15-minute race, right? So which means it's basically 2.5, nearly 3 laps. But the guy at the lead was so quick, he crossed the line. And obviously it's 15 minutes, and if it hits 15 minutes, you finish the lap you're on. He crossed the line at 14 minutes and 55 seconds, which means he started another lap. And that meant that the next 3 races of that evening, which were dictated by the amount of laps that were set on that first race. So it means they went from a 15-minute race to basically a 25-minute race. It was a very, very long evening. But it was fantastic action, because the slipstream meant that there were at least 15 cars going for the race lead every single lap. The GTEs don't seem to have as much reaction to the slipstream on previous circuits, but today and here, it's a big factor.
It's appeared to be that way, yeah. Must admit, from driving it, the tracks that we've driven it so far, I've not really noticed that much of a gain with the slipstream. But like you say, in this race, it's given Taylor and Andrews the impetus to give us a very, very interesting battle to watch.
And they have indeed. Phil McDougall is loving it in the chat as well, by the way. He's and hopefully everybody else who's watching this as well is loving it just as much as we are. Aaron Taylor now looking up the inside on Andrews' teammate again. And to be honest, we could just keep saying that. We could just basically record me or Matt saying, oh, he's on the inside, or he's side by side and he's defending around the outside again or something, and just keep it recording, keep it looping, because this is brilliant driving from the both of them. But you're right, I mean, the GTE doesn't seem to react as strongly to the slipstream as I was expecting. I mean, I was expecting it as Suzuka to play more of a factor, I was expecting. Sorry, I've got the hiccups, which is a terrible trait to have as a commentator right now. But yeah, it's Suzuka. It didn't cause much of a pain in that one. Imola. It wasn't as big as I thought it would be at Imola by any stretch of the imagination. So it did surprise me, the GTE, how sort of slippery they are. But I suppose that brings more driver. How would I say? It's more sort of to do with the driver than it is sort of just opening DRS like it is with Formula 1 or something like that. The fact that you don't have that slipstream assistance.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I mean, with the GTs, I think Jamie will agree. Majority of the time you can gain in these is on corner exit, just because they're that easy to spin the back wheels up. I found myself, I don't know if Jamie will agree.
Yeah.
But if you can get the corner exit, not like Aaron Taylor's just done. But if you can get the corner exit, especially on the Mulsanne straight, you'll just gain seconds on everyone. As Andrews is proving now.
Yeah, and I don't know if Andrews has just come off the throttle. I think they're having too good a fun here, and they're just deciding to keep it going, because Andrews could definitely have pulled away a little bit more on Taylor there. I suppose go back to what we were talking about an hour ago now, really. With the next season, obviously it's GTE GT3, isn't it, Matt? And you've tested this. I know you've tested it because you've gone through a few ideas in your head, didn't you? I mean, we were originally talking about 5 weeks ago. We were talking about potential TCR MX-5 or Porsche 911 and TCR, Porsche 911 MX-5, and they've all seemed to have gone out the window a little bit. So you must have tested the GT3 GTEs. What's it like in terms of the speed difference? What can we expect? And I suppose, I mean, a lot of people watching this might be fairly obvious, and I do know the difference, but what is the difference between the GT3s and the GTEs? Why have you decided to make it a multi-class race?
Well, I've gone for the GT3s instead of the LMPs, because with the GT3s and iRacing, to get above from rookie, you go to Class D, and in Class D, there's the Ferrari GT3 Challenge. And then Class C, you've got now the Fanatec GT3 Fixed Championships. I thought, well, I'm opening it up to saying to people who haven't been on iRacing that long or haven't heard of much of it, well, you're not going to have to spend and go out and buy these GTE cars and then quickly learn how to drive them to do this championship. You can come in and the GT3s, which you're in a car that you're hopefully used to driving by now, and you can take part. I mean, I'm trying to think what cars I've actually chosen. So in the GTEs, because there's only a limit of 7 cars I'm allowed to put into one lobby, I'm unfortunately having to lose the BMW M8.
Ooh.
But I've picked that because in the GT3 class, I'm having the BMW M4 prototype with some people that might follow BMW. It is the car on iRacing that uses the Fanatec sim racing wheel. You can actually take it off of your sim rig and plug it straight into a BMW M4 prototype real race car.
In case anybody has a BMW M4 prototype race car in their garden, you can do that. It's
just, they used it as an advertisement and to say, well, sim racing's come this far. This is what it can do now on a real car, so to speak, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's now also go back to the GT3s. They are bringing out the new Porsche. I think it's in 2 weeks. The 911 GT3R.
Yeah, I think Phil McDougall actually has just commented, and I didn't know what he meant, but he said it will be 8 soon in like 3 weeks, so it must be about that Porsche.
Oh, I didn't know they could upgrade its weight, so I might bring another GT3 car in there. But yeah, there's that car coming out, and I am also using the Lamborghini Huracan.
Oh.
So I've tried to think. I didn't really want 2 cars, 2 manufacturers in this championship. I wanted so I didn't really want BMW and GTE and GT3. So I thought, well, if I put the Ferrari in over the BMW, I've got the BMW in the GT3.
Right.
Got the Porsche in both, but the Porsche is such a popular car. I couldn't. Between the BMW and the Porsche was always going to win. I mean, looking at it tonight, how many Porsches have we got? 3, 4, 6.
Quite a few.
Yeah, so, yeah. I'm just hoping this season kickstarts me for next season, to be honest.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed.
I've already got 4 or 5 registered, like I said before, so
well, if anybody out there does want to get involved, then contact NXTGEN. Say you want to race in the GTEs, or say you want to race on iRacing in general, you'll get sent to either Jamie or Matt, both of which you've been hearing from a lot tonight, and whether or not you want to race the Legends because you're free on a Monday, or whether or not you want to race on the GTEs because you're free on a Wednesday, or because you want to race in the GTEs, the GT3 cars, it's all up to you guys. And there'll be a place for you, put it that way. Taylor and Andrews, they're still going at it. I mean, I get the impression they're enjoying themselves a little bit too much here. I think as soon as one of them gets a little bit further ahead, they're maybe easing off a little bit more. They're just putting on a show, aren't they? They're putting on a spectacle. Phil McDougall says, he's talking about the BMWs. I think no one can tell the difference between the wide boy. Yeah, so you have a variety of options though in the next season, doesn't it? And I believe you've tried to do your best to obviously the sort of balance of power as well. You mentioned about the Porsche obviously being so dominant. You try to encourage people to go for a variety of cars.
Yeah, well, I must admit, I kind of kicked myself after about 3 or 4 weeks of this when I realised when I went on the special events page, I think I was looking at Sebring, the 12 hours of Sebring that I did with Ollie Wayne. And iRacing actually have a balance of power for the people that don't know. So they turn engines down on some of the cars because they are that dominant. I never looked into this, and I think the Porsche is set at 97% or 96%, and it's got ballast on board.
Wow.
So, yeah, I must admit, next season there will be a balance of power, but it'll be from the most previous special events. So I think it's Sebring was the big one with the GTEs last time.
Yeah, there's also the Watkins Glen one coming up 6 hours soon.
6 hours around Watkins Glen. Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Spa 24.
Yeah, so I'll be using Watkins Glen then because I think that's before my season starts, and then for the GT3s I will be using Spa.
Right, so it's sort of there's all the information basically. If anybody out there is wondering what's going on, we've only got would you believe it? We've only got 11 minutes left of this race, which is quite astonishing, isn't it? Really, it's given us a spectacle. Jamie, you've obviously not been quite as involved as you would have liked. In fact, actually, as well, we were talking about. Yeah, you've got 5 laps to catch up Jack Fielder-Clifford. Well, Fielder-Clifford has got back out.
They've all joined back in. I've been watching it and almost crying to myself. The only positive I am taking is the next person on my relative is Jochen. And I've pulled 5 seconds from him in the last couple of laps. So
Jochen's in. He's one of the NXTGEN friends, isn't he? He's done a couple of the endurance races with you and stuff.
Yeah, Jochen's been around for a few seasons, done the Porsches, the Porsche GT3 and the GT4s. He jumped on that.
TCR as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he done the TCR, the PMR series. Yeah, he's been around for a little while now, and he's a valid one of the people who come and join and race most leagues. Like a lot of people, thing is, what we try and do is, as NXTGEN is. Yes, we're a sim racing group, but it doesn't matter how experienced or inexperienced you are. Everyone gets treated equally, and just try and make everyone part of a family, really. So, yeah, people try to stay or tend to stay just because we try and give them the benefit of the doubt and, be fair.
It's funny, really, isn't it? Because you mentioned Sigurt's been around, obviously, for a couple of seasons now. Well, I actually remember him. I think he's been in every single series I've ever commentated on for a NXTGEN series. Because just cut away from that, sorry, just quickly, because Taylor and Andrew, they're getting a little bit closer to each other, I would say, in terms of their door-to-door action, shall we say. They're getting a bit feistier with each other. In fact, they're dead heat now. We'll keep an eye on them. I think we've got 2 laps that we'll be able to fit in because we've got 9 minutes to go. Flash the lights in the background. I'm not sure who that is. I think that's Fielder-Clifford's trying to get in on the action. I think he's a bit far back for that one. But yeah, I think Sigurt's been involved in every single NXTGEN league that I've commentated on, apart from potentially the WTCR. I'm not sure if Sigurt was involved in that one. I don't think he was. And that's actually where I met you for the first time, wasn't it, Matt?
It was. I think was it the start of this year? No, it was mid last year, wasn't it? Or was it?
Yeah, it was end of last year.
Yeah, that was it, because you won the championship, Jamie, if I remember correctly.
I can neither comment. I
No.
can't comment on that.
On the last race, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it's towards the last
Yeah,
couple of laps against Lee Horn.
2 points ahead of Lee, wasn't I? Going into the 2 points ahead of Lee in the final championship.
Tell you what, that was a fantastic sort of championship, to be fair, wasn't it? With the sorry, my foot is very much itching, so I was just trying to itch that at the same time as talking. But yeah, that was a fantastic championship, and I feel like that really epitomised what Next Gen do, really, and the fantastic racing and the sort of camaraderie in it as well, because everybody was jumping in for interviews, and they were sort of loving it. You were sharing sort of lap times going into it and everything, and you were sharing obviously a lot of the grid with the XT. Oh, that's a huge lockup by Andrews. You were sharing a lot of the grid with the XTCR as well, weren't you? Which I think, Jamie, you raced in a couple of times. I think on a Wednesday, because I was also broadcasting that.
Yep. Yeah. So that was basically, that was Crest Autosport, which we've now gone into collaboration with. So Next Gen and Crest.
Because that's Alex Everett, isn't it?
Yeah. So we've gone 50-50 on the race room side of things. So everything's shared, run under one roof, so to speak, to share drivers, and we've got such a good bond with them that we share each other's members. And you know, what's the point of having two leagues competing when you can make one big entertaining league?
Absolutely. And Matt, are you said you don't have race room installed at the moment, do you? You're hoping maybe to jump on if you can find an extra night or two to dedicate to the racing, or are you going to stick to iRacing for now?
Well, nice to put me on the spot. I must admit, as I was telling Jack before, Jamie, my computer broke and I've just never re-downloaded it. Are you using the 2021 cars now?
Yeah, so it's a mixture of 2018, 2019, 2020 cars, and the TC Cup, and they're all balanced. So you can have, 3 years of cars, really. I'm currently leading the championship in that as well. Sorry, had to say that.
No, that's right. What nights is it on?
Tuesdays.
I might have to download it this weekend. Just to put me on the spot.
No, that's what I do, isn't it? That's the way you try and drive people on the grid, isn't it? You put them on the spot, force them into saying yes. No, obviously, I think it was a fantastic sort of event. And going back to originally why I brought that up, actually, is because obviously Jochen Sigert, I think he was in my tier, because I did tier 1 and 2 for the PMRE series. So I think he was in one of them. I think he was in tier 2. And then he was in...
I think he was in my tier in tier 3.
Oh, was he?
I think so, yeah.
I saw him though, I swear. Did you join in with the tier 2s at one point? I don't know.
Yeah,
anyway.
towards the end, we brought both tiers together.
Yeah, I thought so. I was going to say, there was because originally we had like 400 people qualify or something stupid, didn't we? And
and we narrowed it back.
Yeah, and then obviously it went down to like 3 tiers or something. Obviously the Premier tier, which Year One TV were broadcasting, weren't they, with the likes of Andy McEwen on the lead comms and stuff. And then it was, I did the tier 1 and 2. That was actually my first. I wouldn't say my first commentary gig, because I actually did my first commentary gig down in Milton Keynes for Simply Race. But that was my second commentary gig, and it was my first time broadcasting or anything like that. And it was absolutely terrifying. But luckily, you guys were very nice. Hence why I keep coming back. Now I'm a bit more experienced with it. Who was that just gone off? Was that George Bland, your friend?
That's George.
Oh, George. Oh, well, he's still in 5th, though, isn't he? I mean, that's pretty impressive. He's unfortunately lost out to Miles Owens at some point. But let's have a look at how he ended up crashing there.
I also damaged my car in the Porsche cars.
Oh, so you're in the pits. Well, I was just looking at George now. He just seemed to go... I think he just misjudged where the road was, to be honest, didn't he? Yeah, I think that's probably tiring us, Matt.
No, I think... Is that the Mulsanne corner after the straight?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, it's the corner he told me was the worst corner he had to hit because there's a bump on braking, I believe, Jamie?
Yes, there is. Yeah.
Yeah, and he said it was horrible. He kept launching his car into air and locking his brakes up.
Yeah, a bit of a shame, that one. We've only got 3.5 minutes left of this race, but I fear for everybody who wants to go to bed, including probably my girlfriend next door. We've actually going to have another lap of this because, well, actually, yeah, I think we will have another lap because with 3 minutes left, we've only got 10% of the lap to go. So we will indeed see this one out by the looks of it. And it's going to be interesting, isn't it, to see which one of these guys, because surely at some point they're going to have to just try and drive away from each other.
I'm going to put you on the spot now, Jack. Who do you think's going to win with two tenths gap on the last lap?
I think Matt Hodges is going to win the championship, and that's what I'm going to leave it as.
Yeah.
No, I think if my money was on it, Taylor had the pace earlier on in the race. I think for the last half an hour they've been enjoying themselves, letting each other catch each other back up on the Mulsanne straights and then launching themselves into corners side by side and see what happens, sort of thing. I think if they start actually trying to drive as hard as they can, I think Taylor will drive away with it on the last lap. So that's where I'm gonna go with it. Or completely left field, I think Jochen Sigurd will win it because they'll both take each other off.
It is the white flag.
Yeah, it is the white flag. Yeah, we will be on the final lap of the race. 2 minutes to go, and obviously more than half the track to go. So I suppose this is an opportunity because we probably won't have many interviews after this because I think everybody does need to get to bed, including me, unfortunately. But I think, I suppose, Matt, what are your thoughts from this? It's obviously made you want to do it again. Has it been stressful? Has it been entertaining? What's the sort of overarching takeaway, I suppose, of this season?
I think if emotions wise, I think there's been one moment where I got a tiny bit stressed, and I talked to Jamie about it, and he helped me quite a bit with it, I must admit. So thank you, Jamie. Other than that, I've just loved it. I can't really pinpoint one moment. I've loved it because I've had, like I said to you before, 24 to 25 people at Monza. Like I said to you, I never expected to get that kind of numbers. I mean, yeah, there's 12 left now. Hopefully they'll have more next season. But yeah, it's just been incredible. I mean, I now understand what goes on in the background and how much effort and time and stuff like that you've got to give towards it. So again, like I said before, I just want to thank NXTGEN and Jamie, Mark, Kevin, everyone, Lee that's helped me with this, Alex Everett as well, and everyone that's taken part.
Absolutely, and I'd like to thank you for getting me involved as well, because it has been a fantastic series. Sometimes when you hear solo comms, 45-minute feature races, there's maybe only a handful of drivers, say 10, I think we were last time, you sort of think, it could be all right, or it could be a bit of a drag, but I'm happy to get involved and help out, sort of thing. But it's been thrilling racing, as has been sort of shown here tonight, because Andrews and Taylor, I don't believe anymore, are actually just sort of letting each other fight for this one. I believe actually they are pushing themselves, which is why we've seen a couple of them pushing a little bit wide. So a big thank you to NXTGEN from my perspective, and obviously for you guys helping me get involved. With any luck, I'll be back, but that's a huge hung out to dry moment there for Neil Andrews, and I think Aaron Taylor is going to take this checkered flag. Coming out of the sort of Mulsanne area of the circuit now and going down towards the Porsche curves, I think Taylor is going to have this one because Andrews had a big off there, Matt.
He did. I don't think it was intentional from Andrews. I think he took the racing line, to be honest. Let's watch the replay.
It was going to be contact if he didn't, put it that way.
Yeah, he could have been in his blind spot, to be honest. I mean, he's right on his back corner. He might not have seen him.
Well, that's very, very true. Yeah, I mean, you can't argue with that sort of thing, I suppose. You're being very PC about it, I reckon. No, they won't have hit each other off. They just spent the last 2 hours enjoying each other's company. I doubt that it would have turned sour on the last lap. But it is going to be Aaron Taylor to take the checker flag, isn't it? It is Matt Hodges who takes the championship as well for the Grid Engineering GTE Series 1. It's been a brilliant series. A big thank you to everybody who's tuned in for not only this evening, but the entire championship. At any point, the checkered flag drops for Aaron Taylor and Neil Andrews first and second. They put on a fantastic show. Best of the rest at the moment is 3 minutes down the road is Jochen Sigurd, as other people who have been lapped start to take the checkered flag as well, including Miles Owens. In fact, I think Jochen Sigurd is the only driver really who hasn't been lapped. I could be wrong. No, I think I'm right, actually. Jochen Sigurd is the only driver that hasn't been lapped by Aaron Taylor and Neil Andrews.
Yeah, he is the only one.
That's a pretty good achievement. But, yeah, I mean, with any luck, we'll be back. It might not be me broadcasting it. It might be some of the other companies that you've been chatting to, the other people you've been chatting to as well, Matt. But wherever it happens, it's going to be exciting, isn't it? It's led up to it. You've built a product here, as well as NXTGEN always do with any of their new leagues. Build a product, and it's only going to get better and better. And I'm glad to hear that you've obviously kept your enthusiasm, because I've been around people who organise leagues, and I've sort of done a couple of events myself and stuff like that, and it is draining. It can be extremely draining. So it is brilliant to hear that you've carried that on. And with any luck, next season will be bigger and better, and I'll be sure to keep an eye out on it.
Thank you very much, Jack. And I just want to say thank you very much for taking your Friday nights and doing this for us. It's been brilliant to watch.
Well, I wouldn't be knowing anything else, would I? No, it's been absolutely brilliant racing. Luckily, I mean, it's just, as I said, I can't really fault it for the entire season. The CXR guys sort of gave it an injection of pace and competitiveness at the front of the field that tried to raise everybody else's game as well. So for that reason, you can't sort of knock them, even if they were a little bit further ahead than the rest of the field. And obviously the people like Matt Acton, Privateers, James Holman, Alex Everett really tried to bring the race to them, which was awesome to see as well. Just giving Jochen Sigurd, by the way, the sort of time he deserves out on the camera at the moment, because we haven't seen him once, but he has come home he is about to probably come home in third, isn't he? And he's driven fantastically well. And there have been sort of the odd moments where the standout drivers, although it's CXR Project Black for the majority, I mean, throw it back to Monza. James Holman was an absolute monster in those races, wasn't he? He was really upsetting the apple cart.
He was at Suzuka as well. He was just a different driver them 2 rounds. It was really, really nice to watch. And I don't think CXR liked it too much, because it kind of upset what their rhythm has been of 1, 2, 3, 4s.
Yeah, it was indeed. So, I mean, they've even put in 5 or 6 drivers. With any luck, they'll be back with a couple more drivers next season as well, and that will really push people to try and get better and encourage sort of the people like James Holman to get back involved, and obviously Alex Everett, like I mentioned before, and other people like that who have obviously got fantastic pace underneath them regardless. But it's going to be Jochen Sigurd to round out the last couple of corners, come across the line. A couple of people doing donuts. I think is that you, Jamie?
That's me. I was waiting for Jochen to give Jochen, give him a nice little.
I see him across the line there, and you couldn't get Fielder Clifford in the end, could you? He was just 6 laps ahead of you in the end.
No, I know.
Matthew Green about to come across the line. Jamie's going to try and hit him. That makes the... oh my God.
I didn't mean to.
And Nigel Stock as well, the last couple of cars coming around the corner. Well,
one thing I've noticed is there's been no drive-through penalties.
Lo and behold, you're right, you know. What was the limit again? It was a 17.
25.
25. I think the highest off tracks that I've seen is by George Bland with 15 off tracks. Matthew Green had 13 and Jack Fielder Clifford had 12. But obviously that's it's not 25 off tracks, is it? It's 25 1Xs. But I'm not sure how many X's people have got. But yeah, no, pretty good going, I'd say, for a 2-hour race. Individual 2-hour races as well, not a team event. So, which I think worked quite well, Matt, as well. I don't think it lost any of its sparkle, the fact that it went to an individual rather than a team event.
No, to be honest, I think it was better than I thought it'd be. I mean, it would be interesting to watch a team because, like you said before, it's the pressure of knowing, well, my teammate hasn't sat in the car yet. I can't exactly damage it and give it to him damaged. But it's been better than I thought it were going to be, I'll be honest. I was worried thinking, well, it's going to be a bit... with the size of the track, there's going to be 15-second gap between everyone on each lap. But it's been a lot closer than I thought it were going to be, to be honest.
It has indeed, and it's also been a delight having you along in the commentary box, and not only that, Jamie Dory as well, because Jamie, you joined in and you just didn't fancy leaving, did you? So it was fantastic to have you along. So thank you guys very much. Made my job an awful lot easier and a much more of a delight. So a big thank you to you guys. Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, no, it's been great fun. Like I said, unfortunately, I had a few PC issues, so come and keep you guys company. Matt, you've done an amazing job throughout the season, and Jack, as always, thank you for putting your time in.
Thank you very much.
Have you enjoyed it, Matt, jumping in the comms box?
I must admit, it's a pleasant change. I'll be honest. There's a bit of pressure, but not a lot. Not anywhere near as much. Oh, we've just gone day.
It's
But
because
yeah,
I'm trying to get a replay, that was all.
Oh, right. But no, I just want to say thank you very much for having me.
It's been a pure delight. Well, big thank you to everybody who's obviously jumped on and given a comment, given a like, a follow. It's you never have to. Hopefully, you've been watching this on either the Jacko Racing or even on the NXTGEN Facebook page as well. We try and cross-post it to anywhere so you guys can just follow who you want to follow. You don't have to follow my personal stuff if you don't want to, but you still want to catch the action and want to watch the NXTGEN guys, then you can always watch it on the NXTGEN page as well. Is it okay? I think we'll round out the stream and the series if that's okay with you, Matt.
That's perfect with me.
Well, a big thank you again for everybody who's driven, who's been involved over the past 12 weeks, and hopefully you'll be back to watch the broadcast, of the next GTE GT3 series, and of course the iRacing Legends as well, which will be on a Wednesday for the GTE GT3 and a Monday for the iRacing Legends with Jamie Dory and the Bobby Thompson and the likes. We'll see you next time on Jacko Racing. We'll let you know if we're involved in any NXTGEN involvement next season, but either way, keep it pinned to NXTGEN for all their information.